Chapter 162. Hee die die. The black-furred wild boar turned around and looked at Yi-chun. When it saw that Yi-chun had nowhere to run, it immediately roared excitedly. Roar! Yinhu's furious roar could be heard. This black-furred wild boar was too despicable. It actually took advantage of the moment when Yi-chun jumped up to release its pig hair. In midair, Yi-chun sneered and shook the Godslayer in his right hand. Buzz, in the next second, a ball of scorching flame appeared at the tip of the Godslayer. At this moment, Yi-chun stabbed out with the Godslayer in his right hand. Boom! A loud sound was heard. The ball of scorching flame at the tip of the Godslayer exploded, creating a wall of fire. Buzz, buzz, buzz dent sounds could be heard from the flames. The black-furred wild boar's excited face froze instantly. How is this possible? You're only a great heaven. How can you use magic? The black-furred wild boar exclaimed in disbelief. The countless pig hair that shot towards Yi-chun were burned the moment they touched the wall of fire. From the black-furred wild boar's point of view, even if Yi-chun used his great heaven essence chi, he wouldn't be able to block all of its pig hair. This was because the pig hair was too thin and there were too many of them. However, the current situation was that not only did Yi-chun block it, but he also burned all of its pig hair. Yi-chun naturally didn't know how to use magic, but Yi-chun's mental power had already reached 100. He only needed 1 point to enter the mortal evolution state. Moreover, Yi-chun had the 9 revolutions mystic art to protect his body. Activating the fire spirit pearl for a short period of time wasn't a problem for Yi-chun. However, how could Yi-chun explain this to this black-furred wild boar? Bang! Yi-chun landed safely on the ground. Then he stomped on the ground with his right foot and charged towards the black-furred wild boar once again. Roar! When Yinhu saw that Yi-chun was fine, he immediately let out an excited roar. After that, he followed Yi-chun and charged towards the black-furred wild boar. F***CK. The black-furred boar cursed and turned to run. Its scolding had completely lost its previous confidence. Not only did it lose its previous confidence, but it also carried a strong sense of fear. Mother ****, do you still want a pig to live? He's only in innate stage, and he already knows how to use magic. Who the hell is the real demon? Boom, boom, boom. The black-haired wild boar ran for its life, leaving potholes on the ground. Unfortunately, it could not shake off Yi-chun at all. Not only could it not shake him off, the distance between them was constantly closing. Yi-chun, how about we make a deal? You have nothing to lose anyway. The black-furred boar hurriedly shouted when it realized that it could not shake off Yi-chun and that Yi-chun was closing in on it. However, even though it was shouting, it didn't slow down at all. Discuss my ass. I want to eat roasted wild boar today. Yi-chun sneered and shouted. F***CK. Yi-chun, don't F***king force me. If you push me too hard, you won't have a good time either. The black-furred wild boar was furious when it heard this. At this moment, its pair of pig eyes also became incomparably blood-red. This was out of anger and anxiety. It was angry because Yi-chun said that he wanted to eat roasted wild boar. It was anxious because it couldn't shake off Yi-chun at all. It didn't want to die. If Yi-chun really caught up to it, it might really die, and the possibility was very high. This was what the black-furred wild boar was thinking at this moment. Show me how anxious you are. Yi-chun curled his lips in disdain. Then, he jumped up again and charged towards the black-furred wild boar. The distance between them shortened again. After sensing that Yi-chun was getting closer, the black-furred wild boar's thick pig skin suddenly trembled. It didn't dare to be anxious in front of Yi-chun. If it were to be anxious again, it would have to stop again. 3 seconds later, the black-furred wild boar breathed out 2 puffs of hot air from its nose. Its pair of pig eyes also revealed a look of reluctance at this moment, as if it had made an important decision. After running for a while, the black-furred wild boar finally couldn't hold on any longer. It shouted loudly without turning its head. Yi-chun, I'll give you a treasure and we'll call it quits. How about that? After I kill you, the treasure will still be mine. Yi-chun sneered and said. Then he jumped again. Yi-chun, if you kill me, I guarantee that you won't get the treasure. The black-furred wild boar was both angry and scared when it heard this. It hurriedly shouted. Yi Chun, who was chasing after it, couldn't help but frown when he heard this. Yi Chun understood the meaning of the black-furred wild boar's words. The treasure wasn't with it. Tell me, what treasure? What ability can move me? Perhaps you can live. Yi Chun narrowed his eyes and said, Stop chasing. The black-furred wild boar hurriedly shouted. If you don't run, I won't chase. Yi Chun smirked and then shouted. Okay, I'll believe you this time. The black-furred wild boar shouted without hesitation and then stopped. It had no choice but to stop. Yi Chun was about to catch up to it. If it stopped, there was a possibility that they could continue the discussion. However, just as the black-furred wild boar turned around, a loud bang was heard. Yi Chun leaped and instantly arrived beside the black-furred wild boar. He swung the Godslayer in his right hand. Yi Chun, the black-furred wild boar's eyes instantly turned red. It pretended to be very sincere and trusted Yi Chun completely. Its purpose was to try its best to dispel Yi Chun's killing intent and make Yi Chun stop so that they could negotiate. But in the end, not only did Yi Chun come to its side, he even shot it. This was the last thing the black-furred wild boar wanted to see. Poochie, a sound was heard. One of the black-furred wild boar's huge hoof was instantly cut off by the Godslayer. Oh! A mournful howl was heard from the black-furred wild boar's mouth. Bang! A loud sound was heard. The black-furred wild boar fell heavily to the ground. Sizzle! The boar's blood began to spurt out like it was free. Oh! The black-furred wild boar's howls became even louder after it fell to the ground. Bang! Yinhu caught up and looked at the black-furred wild boar that was still spurting out blood after losing one of its hoof. His tiger eyes suddenly lit up. The black-furred wild boar that was howling in pain suddenly shuddered when it saw Yinhu's bright tiger eyes. It was unknown whether it was because it was scared or because it was injured, but the black-furred wild boar's huge body quickly shrunk and quickly returned to the size of an adult rhinoceros. Yi Chun waved the Godslayer, then looked at the black-furred wild boar and asked indifferently, Speak, what treasure is it? You're shameless. Despicable. You're not human. The black-furred wild boar glared with its scarlet eyes and roared angrily. Roar! Yinhu raised his tiger claw without hesitation and slapped the black-furred wild boar's stomach, then slashed it. Slash! A sound was heard. A layer of the black-furred wild boar's stomach was cut open, and boar's blood began to flow out. I'll talk. You tell this despicable tiger to scram. The black-furred wild boar's face instantly twisted as it hurriedly shouted at Yi Chun. Chapter 163. Slash! The sound rang out again. Yinhu's tiger claw scratched the black-furred wild boar's stomach again. Roar! The black-furred wild boar instantly howled in agony. Speak! Yi Chun smiled coldly and said. The black-furred wild boar glared at Yinhu, then looked at Yi Chun and said, You have to swear that after I tell you, you can't kill me. Otherwise, I'd rather die than tell you. When Yi Chun heard this, he glanced at Yinhu. Yinhu's mouth instantly drew back, and his tiger claw scratched again. Slash! The sound rang out again. Roar! The black-furred wild boar's face contorted. It was too king painful. Yinhu's tiger claw scratched deeper and more viciously each time. The black-furred wild boar was very sure that if this continued, its stomach would be cut open immediately. When it thought of this, the black-furred wild boar's face contorted even more. It had just had its trotters chopped off by Yi Chun, and it was in so much pain that it hadn't even recovered yet. Yinhu had arrived, and his tiger claw was even on its stomach. If this were any other time, it would have attacked Yinhu long ago. But now, not only had it become a fish on Yi Chun's chopping board, it didn't even dare to resist Yinhu. Yi Chun glanced coldly at the black-furred wild boar, curled his lips in disdain, and said, You even want to negotiate with me about what a treasure is. You really don't know how to spell the word death. That's a fruit, a red one. The black-furred wild boar gritted its teeth and said. When Yi Chun heard this, He couldn't help but be stunned. A fruit that the black-furred wild boar treated so seriously as a treasure was definitely not something simple. When he thought of this, Yichen looked at the black-furred wild boar and asked, "That red fruit is in your territory?" "Yes, but its location is very well hidden. Without me, you wouldn't have found it at all. Otherwise, I wouldn't have followed that damn multicolored cat here." When the black-furred wild boar said this, its pig face instantly twisted. F***CK. Wouldn't it have been better if it had stayed in its nest obediently? Why did it have to come out? Not only did it come out, it even had to find trouble with Yichen. Now, it was even losing its life. Yichen naturally saw the black-furred wild boar's miserable and resentful pig face, and his pig eyes filled with fear and anger. He smiled, then said, "Lead the way. You have to promise that you won't kill me after you get that fruit. Otherwise, I won't lead the way even if I die." The black-furred boar shouted without hesitation. Yichen glanced at the black-furred boar and said, "I promise I won't kill you. Lead the way. If you speak any more nonsense, I'll kill you right now." The black-furred wild boar stared closely into Yichen's eyes, but couldn't find anything suspicious. It nodded and said, "Okay, but I'm injured now. Tell me the direction." Yichen said calmly, "Winterside, 150 miles. There's a mountain there. There's a cave at the foot of the mountain. Let's go there first." The black-furred wild boar was slightly stunned, then said. Just as the black-furred wild boar was about to see how Yichen was going to lead it away, Yichen went behind the black-furred wild boar and grabbed one of its hind legs. You can't do this to me." The black-furred wild boar was slightly stunned, then roared loudly. Yichen curled his lips and walked forward with the black-furred wild boar's hind legs. His speed was getting faster and faster. The weeds on the ground were instantly crushed, and then more and more appeared. Yinu's mouth curled up, and he wagged his tail before following Yichen. "Yichen, let's talk nicely. I can't F***king walk on my own." The black-furred wild boar roared loudly. However, Yichen ignored it. As time passed, the black-furred wild boar's angry roar turned into a miserable howl. In the end, it became a whimper, and its throat became hoarse. At the foot of a mountain. When Yichen arrived here with the black-furred wild boar, he saw a cave at first glance, and then he walked straight towards it. The black-furred wild boar, whose skin was already worn out, was shocked when it saw that Yichen still didn't let go of its hind legs. It hurriedly opened its mouth and roared. "Yichen, you, hurry up and let go of me. This place is full of rocks, and they're sharp." With a woo sound, the black-furred wild boar, which was still roaring just now, instantly flew out in the direction of the cave. It was Yichen who casually threw the black-furred wild boar into the cave. With a loud bang, the black-furred wild boar fell heavily to the ground. At this moment, Yichen also arrived at the entrance of the cave. The black-furred wild boar shook its dizzy pig head. Before it could get angry, its pig face instantly collapsed. It saw the Godslayer's black spear tip pressed against its pig head. "Lead the way, and don't play any tricks. Otherwise, you'll die a horrible death," Yichen said coldly. The black-furred wild boar was silent for a moment before it said, "You have to swear that after you get that red fruit, you won't kill me." It didn't believe Yichen, but now that its little life was in Yichen's hands, it had no choice but to compromise and give up the treasure in order to live on. "I won't kill you. This is the last time. If you continue to dawdle, I'll kill you immediately." Yichen snorted coldly. The black-furred wild boar glanced at Yichen, then struggled to get up and walked into the cave. Yichen followed behind. The Godslayer aimed at the black-furred wild boar. As long as the black-furred wild boar dared to make any strange movements, Yichen wouldn't hesitate to kill it. Not long after, the black-furred wild boar brought Yichen to a large rock in the cave. "It's under the rock. There's a hole there, and the fruit is in that hole." As soon as the black-furred wild boar finished speaking, Yichen kicked the huge rock. With a loud bang, the huge rock was instantly kicked away by Yichen, and a hole the size of a water tank appeared in front of Yichen's eyes. At the same time, a faint medicinal fragrance floated out of the hole. Yi-chun, who smelled the medicinal fragrance, instantly felt a comfortable feeling. In the next second, Yi-chun's eyes opened wide. Sure enough, it was a graded spiritual medicine. Spiritual medicines that could be called treasures, without exception, had very strong medicinal properties. Even if it was a yellow-grade spiritual medicine, Yi-chun could directly break through a small realm after eating it. What grade of spiritual medicine would it be? Thinking of this, Yi-chun went straight to the hole and looked down. An underground cave immediately entered Yi-chun's eyes. Inside, stalactites were densely packed, either hanging upside down or standing upright. There was more or less white powder on each stalactite. They constantly emitted a faint glow, illuminating the cave with a variety of colors. At first glance, it was very spectacular. It was beautiful, but this wasn't the main point of Yi-chun's attention. Soon, a small pond formed by stalactites appeared in Yi-chun's line of sight. In the small pond, there was a short plant with a red fruit the size of a ping-pong ball hanging from it. The moment he saw the red fruit, Yi-chun's eyes opened wide. A black-grade spiritual medicine. A red fruit. Chapter 164. Yi-chun, I'll give you the fruit. Take it and leave. I don't want to see you ever again. The black-furred wild boar looked at Yi-chun's back and said sadly. It had completely admitted defeat. In other words, it had already given up on Yi-chun's arrogance. How could a person be so perverted? It was almost the same in the game, but in reality, why was there such a huge difference? Yi-chun turned around and looked at the black-furred wild boar. His eyes narrowed. Tung! The black-furred wild boar was frightened by Yi-chun's gaze and retreated. Then it sat on the ground with a plop. You made an oath. If I give you the treasure, you won't kill me. Don't forget, it's not like before. You can't just make an oath. The black-furred wild boar shouted in fear. When Yi-chun heard this, he suddenly smiled and nodded. He said, I didn't expect you to know about this. You're right, you can't just make an oath. But I didn't make an oath, right? When the black-furred wild boar heard this, its pig face suddenly twisted. It then roared angrily, You scum! Scum! You! Poochie! A sound was heard. Yin-hu suddenly jumped in front of the black-furred wild boar and bit its neck. Crack, crack! Several sounds were heard. The black-furred wild boar's neck was bitten off in an instant. The black-furred wild boar's 3 pig legs and half a pig leg started to twitch violently at this moment. Its pig eyes were filled with anger, hatred, and deep despair. You see, although I didn't make an oath, I kept my word. Right, I didn't kill you. Yi-chun sighed helplessly and said. When the black-furred wild boar heard this, its 2 pig eyes suddenly widened. Then its 2 pig eyes rolled back and it died. It was already about to die, but Yi-chun's shameless words angered it. F*CK, you can't be so shameless. Of course, the black-furred boar couldn't shout either. Yi-chun curled his lips in disdain. He then looked at Yin-hu and said, Stay here and be on guard. Even though the meat of this wild boar isn't much, there are still benefits to eating it. Eat as much as you can. Yin-hu's tiger eyes instantly turned into a grin as he nodded his tiger head. Yi-chun smiled and turned to look at the entrance of the cave. With a leap, he jumped into the cave. Bang! A loud sound was heard. Yi-chun landed and looked around. After confirming that there were no signs of life, he walked straight to the small pool. Yi-chun walked to the side of the small pond and glanced at the vermilion fruit in the pond. The corners of his mouth curled up, and he reached out to pluck it. The moment the vermilion fruit was plucked, a rich medicinal fragrance burst forth. Seeing this, Yi-chun put it in his mouth without hesitation and swallowed it. As soon as the vermilion fruit entered his stomach, a huge amount of spiritual energy exploded. Yi-chun immediately sat cross-legged and began to cultivate the 9 revolutions mysterious art. The black-level spirit herb was very powerful and couldn't be eaten casually. Otherwise, one's body would explode. The reason why the black-furred wild boar didn't eat the vermilion fruit was because it couldn't withstand the huge amount of spiritual energy contained within the vermilion fruit. Yi-chun wasn't afraid. The 9 Revolutions mysterious art was a chaos-level cultivation method. It required a lot more spiritual energy than ordinary people. This was because the 9 Revolutions mysterious art not only condensed the great heaven true chi, but also tempered the body at an extremely fast speed. Time passed bit by bit. An hour later, Yi Chun suddenly opened his eyes. 2 rays of light flashed and then disappeared. Feeling that his power had increased by at least 50% and his dantian was almost filled with great heaven true chi, Yi Chun couldn't help but grin. He had reached the divine level. A single vermilion fruit had directly pushed Yi Chun from an emperor-level general to a saint-level general. Yi Chun was in a good mood. Of course, if it was someone else who ate it, they could directly reach the mortal evolution state. Yi Chun obviously knew this, but Yi Chun wasn't envious at all. This was because other people couldn't have a strong body like Yi Chun. A strong body could bring a lot of convenience to Yi Chun. Just the defense alone was enough to make many people despair, not to mention the attack power and the benefits of being able to survive more easily than others. Thinking about this, Yi Chun got up and walked toward the cave entrance. After taking a few steps, Yi Chun suddenly stopped and looked at the small pond. In the next second, Yi Chun's face froze. Damn it, he almost forgot about this millennium stalactite. This was a treasure that could cleanse the marrow and improve the bone structure. Thinking about this, Yi Chun went straight to the small pond. Looking at the milky white millennium stalactite in the pond, Yi Chun smiled. He waved his right hand, and the God Slayer instantly appeared. Then, he slashed at the bottom of the pond. Chi-la sound was heard. The bottom of the pond was instantly cut open. Yi Chun then patted the pond, and the pond along with the millennium stalactite instantly disappeared. I don't have a jade bottle. Otherwise, I would just put in a jade bottle and save myself the trouble. Yi Chun mumbled to himself and then walked toward the cave entrance. As for whether the millennium stalactite would appear again in the future, Yi Chun couldn't be bothered with it. Even if it did, it would be a long time in the future. At that time, Yi Chun wouldn't be interested in the millennium stalactite. When he arrived at the entrance of the cave, Yi Chun jumped out of the cave. Bang! Yi Chun's feet landed on the ground. How? Yinhu's cry could be heard. Yi Chun glanced at Yinhu and couldn't help but smile. Then he said, I'll give you something good to eat when we get back. Hearing this, Yinhu's eyes widened. Then, he went to Yi Chun and rubbed his head against Yi Chun's leg. F***CK. Yi Chun pressed down on Yinhu's head and said, There's a river outside. Go wash up. Hearing this, Yinhu looked at Yi Chun with an aggrieved expression. Yi Chun glared at him and scolded, Go. Otherwise, there won't be anything good to eat. Hearing this, Yinhu turned and ran without another word. He quickly ran out of the cave. Seeing this, Yi Chun shook his head helplessly. A tiger that didn't like to bathe wasn't a good tiger. Even a spiritual beast needed to bathe frequently, especially a spiritual beast that ate a wild boar. Thinking of this, Yi Chun glanced at the black-furred wild boar's body that was gnawed into pieces and left the cave. Not long after, Yinhu swam to the shore from the river and followed Yi Chun back to Samsara City. By the time Yi Chun brought Yinhu back to Samsara City, the sun was already setting. Looking at the afterglow of the setting sun, Yi Chun let out a long breath and walked towards the city gate. The unguarded city gate opened automatically the moment Yi Chun arrived. Yi Chun walked straight in with Yinhu. This was Yi Chun's territory. Everything belonged to Yi Chun. The moment Yi Chun walked into Samsara City, he felt a sense of home. This feeling came suddenly, but it warmed Yi Chun's heart. Let's go. I'll get you something good to eat. I'm sure you'll like it. Yi Chun stroked Yinhu's head and chuckled. Chapter 165. Oh, whoa. Hearing this, Yinhu's 2 tiger eyes suddenly lit up. Then, he used his tiger head to rub against Yi Chun's leg intimately. Yi Chun laughed as he looked at Yinhu, who was trying to please him. Then, he walked towards the Castellan's mansion. At this moment, Samsara City in the real world was empty. There was only one man and one tiger. Walking on the flagstone paved street, the ta sound of footsteps was particularly crisp. Although Yi Chun was alone, Yi Chun was in a good mood. After 2 months, the so-called safe zone in the real world would no longer exist. At that time, the world would enter a period of bloodshed and killing. The mournful cries of death would become a piece of music that would resound throughout the world. The ones playing it would be the demon clan, the human clan, and the witch clan that would appear in the future. At that time, if one did not have a safe place to stay, they would be in danger at any time. Even if they entered the game, they would not be at ease. Yichen did not have to worry about this anymore. Samsara City had already used the city wall, real, and had the ability to attack automatically. In addition to Yinhu's vigilance, there were also the subordinates that Yi Chan would bring to the real world in the future. Samsara City would become stronger and safer. Arriving at the Castellan's mansion, Yi Chan took out 2 spirit gathering formation discs, heaven level and upper level, and placed them together with the earth level spirit gathering formation disc. With a light tap, the 2 heaven level spirit gathering formation discs emitted starlight. A mysterious power flashed and quickly covered a radius of 10,000 miles. After a few breaths, the spirit chi within 10,000 miles of Samsara City began to gather towards Samsara City. Feeling the speed of gathering spirit chi, Yichen could not help but smile. Then, he looked at Yinhu, who was stunned by the large amount of spirit chi gathering. This will automatically generate upper-level spirit stones. You can't eat it now. Wait until you can bear it. Do you hear me? After hearing Yi Chen's instructions, Yinhu came back to his senses and nodded his head vigorously. Yi Chen smiled. With a wave of his right hand, the small pool that he brought with him from the Karst cave appeared instantly. The moment Yinhu saw the small pool, his eyes widened and a fawning expression appeared on his face. I'll give it to you right away. Yi Chen let out a hearty laugh as he made a grabbing motion with his right hand. 3 millennium-old stalactites instantly appeared and flew towards Yinhu. Without any hesitation, Yinhu opened his mouth and swallowed it. After a few breaths, Yinhu's tiger eyes narrowed into a line comfortably. Seeing this, the corner of Yi Chen's mouth curled up. He grabbed again, and 3 millennium-old stalactites flew out of the small pond and were swallowed by Yi Chen. After a few breaths, the aura emanating from Yi Chen's body suddenly changed. It became more and more obvious. He was very easygoing and friendly, just like the aura of nature. After the time it took to brew a cup of tea had passed, Yi Chen suddenly opened his eyes, and a bright light flashed through them. His bone frame should have increased by 3 points, 2 points, 1 point, a total of 6 points. Whether it was what he saw with his eyes or what he felt with his body, they were all different from before. That's right, this was the effect of the Born Taoism aptitude. Born Taoism aptitude. Success. Thinking of this, Yi Chen looked up to the sky and laughed maniacally. In his previous life, Yi Chen entered the Eldritch world and worked himself to death. When he was reborn, he only had the Born Taoism aptitude. In this life, the Eldritch world game had not even started for a month, and Yi Chen had already advanced to the level of the Born Taoism aptitude. Awesome. Very awesome. Awesome from head to toe. This was what Yi Chen was feeling at this moment. Oh, Yinhu, who had discovered Yi Chen's transformation, let out an excited howl. Yi Chen came back to his senses and patted Yinhu's head. He chuckled and said, "Take good care of the house." Roar. Yinhu nodded his head forcefully. Yi Chen smiled slightly, then walked to the side of the diamond-level game pod and lay down. Gotcha. The game pod's door closed. Eldritch World Game, 3 Kingdoms Beginners Area, Samsara City, City Lord's Mansion. A beam of light suddenly appeared. When the beam of light dissipated, Yi Chen, who had been away for almost 3 days, suddenly appeared here. The moment Yi Chen opened his eyes, the system's notification rang out. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chen for advancing to an Overlord General. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chen for advancing to a Saint-level General. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chen for advancing to the Born Taoism aptitude. After hearing the system's notification, Yi Chen's lips curled up. At this moment, the world announcement rang out. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chen for being the first to advance to an Overlord General. Special reward. Innate attributes +3. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chun for being the first to advance to a Saint-level general. Special reward. Innate attributes +3. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chun for being the first to advance to a Born Taoism aptitude. Special reward. Innate attributes +10. Following the series of world announcements, the world channel fell into an eerie silence. In the next second, the world channel exploded like a bomb that had been thrown into a pot of boiling oil. Boom! F***CK. F***CK. Guru Yichun is too awesome. What's going on? He broke through 2 small realms in a row. The world announcement just said that there were people who broke through to the Emperor General level, and there were quite a few of them. F***CK. Boss Yichun just broke through 2 small realms and became a Saint-level general. Why do I feel like this is a slap in the face? F***CK. Do you still want people to live? Who can tell me what's going on? It's fine if a bunch of people suddenly broke through to the Emperor General level, but how did Yi Chun suddenly become a Saint-level general? Yeah, F***CK. There's no way to play this game. Even if you want to cheat, you can't do it so obviously. F***CK. Look at how you're cheating. This game isn't even made by humans. How can you cheat? F***CK. Didn't you see the last world announcement? Born Taoism aptitude. What kind of existence is that? Right, Boss Yi Chun, please explain. What is the Born Taoism aptitude? I just want to know, does Boss Yi Chun accept underlings? I promise that I will be 100% loyal. Beauty Alliance congratulates General Pingbei Yi Chun for becoming a Saint-level general and the Born Taoism aptitude. Also, Beauty Alliance thanks General Yi Chun for his help. St. Hall Town congratulates General Yi Chun for becoming a Saint-level general and the Born Taoism aptitude. Also, St. Hall Town invites General Yi Chun to be our guest. F***CK. Why would Beauty Alliance say that? What did Yi Chun help them with? Ha. I can tell you this. Do you know that Yinhuang Alliance doesn't exist? Yi Chun killed that alliance leader Nyo. I saw the entire process with my own eyes. I saw it too. You guys don't know, but Boss Yi Chun is too amazing. He killed his way into Yinhuang Alliance alone. That's called overbearing. He's simply invincible. Yi Chun casually glanced at the world announcement and then saw what Beauty Alliance said. He couldn't help but frown. Are they announcing to the public that I'm related to Beauty Alliance? Chapter 166. Beauty Alliance. In the previous life, all of them seemed to have been killed by young Master Nyo. What a scheming woman. However, she better not provoke me, or else thinking about this, Yi Chun laughed coldly. At this moment, the system notification sounded out again. Ding, detected Xiantian spiritual treasure, fire spirit pearl. Ding, congratulations to player Yi Chun for obtaining Xiantian spiritual treasure, fire spirit pearl. Ding, because Reincarnation City has Xiantian spiritual treasure, fire spirit pearl, all residents have fire attack +10, fire resistance +10. Yi Chun paused for a moment, and then his eyes lit up. Damn, the fire spirit pearl had such an effect. The fire spirit pearl was a Xiantian spiritual treasure and was not restricted by the word true. It could be brought into the game. Yi Chun knew about this, but Yi Chun did not know that the fire spirit pearl could bring buffs to the territory. After all, in the previous life, Yi Chun did not obtain any Xiantian spiritual treasures, much less the fire spirit pearl. Fire attribute attacks could cause soldiers to have additional attribute attacks. If this was in the Chaos world, it would not be strange. However, this was the beginner area of the 3 kingdoms. With the fire attribute, when attacking the enemy would definitely have a hard time. If the enemy could not withstand the power of the fire attribute, they would die after being injured. If they could withstand it, they would be injured on top of their injuries and would basically be crippled. Simply put, in the beginner area of the 3 kingdoms, once the Reincarnation City soldiers entered the battlefield, they would definitely become nightmares for the enemy. It was okay if they were not injured, but once they were injured, it would be a fate worse than death. Of course, if they were directly killed, there would not be such torture. Damn. Luckily, Yin Huang, Alliance's alliance leader Neo, had not obtained the Fire Spirit Pearl for long and did not understand its use. Otherwise, it would really be hard to say. However, the Fire Spirit Pearl was now his. In his hands, how could the Fire Spirit Pearl be covered in dust? Thinking about this, Yi Chan could not help but smirk, and then he looked at his stats page. After thinking for a moment, Yi Chan used the 16 Xiantian attribute points he was rewarded with and put it into spirit. In the next second, a tremor from his soul appeared. After a few breaths, Yi Chen's spiritual power condensed together and formed a mini Yi Chen in Yi Chen's sea of consciousness. At this moment, the system notification sounded. Ding! Congratulations, player Yi Chen, for breaking through the soul shackles, forming an essence spirit, and reaching the mortal evolution state. Ding! Player Yi Chen's essence spirit has reached the mortal evolution state. Would you like to enter the primordial world? Ding! Notice to player Yi Chen that if he does not choose to enter the wilderness, his primordial spirit will be sealed. Fuck, I can still get more benefits from this place. And there's also a god-level village creation token. I can even ascend to the great desolate lands. Why do I have to ascend? Yi Chen pursed his lips and instantly made his choice. No. Ding. Player Yi Chen refuses to enter the great desolate lands. Because his ability exceeds the strongest in the novice zone of the three kingdoms, he will be sealed until he enters the great desolate lands. As soon as the system notification ended, a pillar of light appeared and enveloped Yi Chen. 3 seconds later, the pillar of light disappeared. Yi Chen opened his eyes and sensed the situation of his primordial spirit. Damn it, it was indeed sealed. Some of the abilities of the primordial spirit could not be used, but it was fine even if it was sealed. With a primordial spirit, he could cultivate the Shenxiao Thunder Imperial Chant. He could also control the Fire Spirit Pearl without worrying about the backlash. Although he could not use the Shenxiao Thunder Imperial Chant casually due to the seal in the game, he could still use the Fire Spirit Pearl once or twice once he returned to the real world. There would be no restrictions on the Shenxiao Thunder Imperial Chant and the Fire Spirit Pearl. He could use it however he wanted as long as he could withstand it, and his primordial spirit was strong enough. Thinking about this, Yi Chen grinned. He was in good mood. Then, he added the remaining 15 attribute points to his bone frame without hesitation. As for his combat power, Yi Chen would not choose it at all. He still had some time to stay in the novice zone of the three kingdoms. No matter how weak his combat power was, he could still break through to the mortal evolution state. It would be a waste to use it. Yi Chen, First Earl, General Pacifying North, City Lord of Samsara City. Title: Spear God. Characteristics: when using spear-type weapons, attack power x2, accuracy x2, comprehension plus 100. Saint level, general level, 96 reputation, 11. 35 million. Increases attractiveness to historical figures, merit, 30. 39 million combat power, 99. Emperor level general's combat power is 93, 94, 95. Emperor level general's combat power is 96, 97, 98. Saint level general's combat power is 99,100. Bone frame, Connate Dao aptitude 20, 5 points from 1,000-year stalactite milk, primordial spirit. 1 sealed, fortune, hidden cultivation method, 9 revolutions mystic art chaos, Shenxiao Thunder Imperial Chant chaos, technique, basic spear technique, divine level, equipment, Godslayer, incomplete, Connate extreme treasure, fire spirit bead, Connate spirit treasure, black cloud armor, black level, true, money, 1,220,000 purple gold items, Yang return. Pill X3, general soul, king level, X1, barbaric bull mantra, emperor level true, X1, earn golden hammer, earth level true, X1, green wolf mantra, emperor level true, green wolf sword, earth level true. After looking at his stats, Yi Chen smiled and walked out of the bedroom. Before he left, Zhao Yu and Diao Chan walked in dejectedly. The moment they saw Yi Chun, the two girls were stunned. Then they shouted happily, "Husband!" Then the two girls rushed to Yi Chun and hugged Yi Chun tightly. The tears hanging on her little face dripped down with a pitter-patter. Yi Chun had disappeared for 3 days. The two girls felt empty. Not only did they miss Yi Chun, but they were also worried about Yi Chun's safety. After all, Yi Chun had told Zhao Yu about the real world. Zhao Yu and Diao Chan both wanted to go to the real world and accompany Yi Chun. Even if it was dangerous, they were not afraid. However, they could not go to the real world. Otherwise, they would have gone long ago. Their thoughts were very simple. They wanted to stay by Yi Chun's side. Even if it was just looking at Yi Chun, it would be good. Now that Yi Chun was back, the two girls could no longer control themselves. Their tears fell endlessly. "Okay, I'm back now." Yi Chun looked at the two girls crying because of his return. His heart couldn't help but feel warm. He reached out and hugged the two girls' shoulders, kissed each of them, and then said with a smile, "Husband, how can we go to your world?" "Sister Diao Chan, and I want to stay by your side." Zhao Yu wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes, then looked up at Yi Chun and asked, "It's not impossible to go to my world. However, there is only one spot now." Yi Chun naturally felt the two girls' feelings. After secretly sighing, he said. When Zhao Yu and Diao Chan heard this, they were both happy. Then they were stunned. The two girls looked at each other and said at the same time, "Husband, since there's only one spot, let's ask General Dian or General Zhao to go." Chapter 167. Zhao Yu and Diao Chan's intention was very simple. They wanted to ensure Yi Chun's safety in the real world. Neither of them had the necessary strength. Although they could relieve the pain of lovesickness in the real world, they couldn't help Yi Chun resolve the danger. Hearing the two girls' heartfelt concern, Yi Chun couldn't help but smile. He lowered his head and kissed the two girls. He said solemnly, "When I gather enough two world stones, I'll bring you two over." "Okay." Zhao Yu and Diao Chan both nodded. "Diao Chan, don't go back tonight." Yi Chun looked at Diao Chan and said seriously, "Huh?" Diao Chan was stunned. Then she realized what Yi Chun meant. Her little face suddenly turned red. Zhao Yu was also stunned. Then she understood what Yi Chun meant. She was also very shy. Seeing the two girls' shy faces, Yi Chun laughed and said, "I'll go to the front first. Husband, business is more important. I'll wait for your return with my sister." Zhao Yu said nervously. "Okay." Diao Chan nodded gently in agreement. Yi Chun smiled and nodded. Then he left the back residence and went to the front residence. Samsara City, City Lord's mansion, living room. As soon as Yi Chun arrived at the door, he saw Guijia, Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Zhao Heng, and Zhao Meng. Obviously, they had already arrived and were waiting for Yi Chun. Guijia, Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Zhao Heng, and Zhao Meng bowed when they saw Yi Chun. "Greetings, my lord." Yi Chun smiled and nodded. Then he looked at Guijia and asked, "Feng Xiao, you can also predict my return?" "My lord, you are the master of fate. Once you return, the fate of Samsara City will be in turmoil. Therefore, I am certain that you have returned," Guijia said with a smile. When Yi Chun heard this, he smiled and looked at Dian Wei. "Dian Wei, did anything happen on the way back?" "My lord, there were some small fries who wanted to attack me, but I killed them all. There were also some Inhumans who wanted to attack the surrendered soldiers, but I also destroyed their towns." When Dian Wei heard Yi Chun's question, he hastily bowed and replied. When Yi Chun heard this, his eyes narrowed. Killing intent flashed in his eyes as he asked, "How's the damage?" "My lord, we didn't lose any. We directly destroyed their towns, and no one dared to approach us after that." Dian Wei bowed and replied. Yi Chun was stunned for a moment. Then he realized that although Dian Wei had returned to Samsara City with the surrendered soldiers, there were more than 800,000 of them, and Dian Wei was a superclass historical general. He was not someone who could be defeated by any Tom, Dick, or Harry. When he thought of this, Yi Chun couldn't help but smile. Then he patted Dian Wei on the shoulder and said, "Well done." Plop! There was a sound. Dianwei got down on one knee and said loudly, I have done something wrong. Please punish me, my lord. Punish? Yichen was confused by Dianwei's words. Seeing Yichen's confusion, Guijia sighed. Then he bowed and said, My lord, Dianwei won a great victory, but what? Yichen was stunned for a moment. Then he asked, He kidnapped Kai Wenji and brought her to Samsara City. Guijia said helplessly. Hearing this, Yichen was stunned for a moment. Then he asked, Are you talking about the daughter of Assistant Minister Kai Yong, Kai Wenji, who was demoted and sent back to her hometown? Guijia nodded and said, That's right. Kai Wenji passed by Wuming Town on her way to the Wei clan in Hudong and rested for a while. Who knew that the lord of Wuming Town wanted to kidnap the surrendered soldiers? Then, Dianwei broke into the town. Not only did he destroy Wuming Town, but he also took away all the people. Kai Wenji was among them. Guijia paused and glanced at Dianwei. Then, he looked at Yichen and continued, My lord. Dianwei was confused for a moment. He thought that since my lord is the general who pacifies the north, you can't live without concubines. When he saw that Kai Wenji was beautiful, he got the idea and took her back to Samsara City. Now, she is living in my lord's mansion. My lord, please punish me. Dianwei said again. Punish me my ass. Yichen glared at Dianwei and helped Dianwei up. Ha ha ha. I told you that my lord wouldn't care about this. Dianwei, remember to send 10 bottles of 100 flowers wine to my mansion. Guijia laughed and shouted at Dianwei. Damn it. How dare you use me as a stake? Yichen's face darkened. Then, he shouted at the servant girl at the door. Guards, bring me a stick. Guijia's face froze. He hurriedly shouted, My lord, please don't be angry. I was just fooling around. Don't take it seriously. Don't take it seriously, my lord. Guijia was very smart. He immediately understood the meaning behind Yichen's words. Yichen wanted to break his legs. Well, bring me some tea. Yichen glared at Guijia and shook his head helplessly. Then, he shouted at the door. Of course, Yichen didn't really want to break Guijia's legs. Guijia also understood that Yichen was just fooling around. It wouldn't be a big deal. Yes, General. The servant girl's voice came. Yichen walked to the main seat and sat down. Sit down. Don't just stand there. Yichen raised his hand and clapped a few times. Yes, my lord. Everyone bowed and answered. Then, they sat down one by one. However, Shermu modestly gave up his seat for a while. In the end, Zhao Yun sat on the first seat on the left. Guijia sat on the first seat on the right. Dianwei sat next to Zhao Yun in the second seat. Zhao Meng took the initiative to sit third. Zhao Heng sat next to Guijia in the second seat on the right. When Yichen saw the arrangement of the seats, he couldn't help but smile. He then looked at Guijia and asked, Kai Wenji went to the Wei clan to complete the wedding? My lord, that is indeed the case. It is said that the person who is going to marry Kai Yin is Wei Zhongdao of the Wei clan. Guijia bowed and said. When he reached this point, he paused for a moment. How does my lord intend to explain this to the Wei clan and Assistant Minister Kai Yong? Explain? Yichen was taken aback. Then, the corners of his mouth curled up. Explain my ass. Don't explain. They stole it. Guijia, Zhao Yun, Dianwei, Zhao Meng, and Zhao Heng were all stunned when they heard this. No matter how they thought about it, they never thought that Yichen would be so bold as to steal Kai Wenji in public. Yichen was taken aback when he saw everyone's expression. Then, he realized something. Damn it, the big man was still here. Stealing Kai Wenji so brazenly would be bad for his reputation. Cough, 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 cough. Yichen laughed awkwardly. Then, he said with a serious expression, I heard that Wei Zhongdao is sick. In order to help Wei Zhongdao drive his luck, the Wei clan used Kai Yong's downfall to threaten Kai Yong. That's why they agreed to the marriage. The Wei clan is a great clan. They didn't care about Kai Wenji's future and insisted on completing the wedding. They destroyed a young girl's life for someone who was bound to die. Such despicable behavior is despicable. I am General pacifying the north of the Great Han Empire. I am responsible for redressing injustice. Since I know that the Wei clan wants to do evil, how can I let them do as they wish? Chapter 168. Hearing Yi Chen's words, everyone could not help being moved. General Ping Bei was so upright. How lamentable and respectable. However, those who knew the truth would be dumbfounded if they heard Yi Chen's words. Damn, how could General Pacifying North be so impassioned and righteous when he did something bad? Jia coughed and said in a serious tone, "My lord, you are right. The Wei clan of River East is indeed despicable. I will write a letter and announce it to the world to expose the evil deeds of the Wei clan." No. Yi Chen shook his head and said, "My lord, we must hit where it hurts. How can we let them wait for an opportunity to strike?" Guojia hurriedly bowed and said. Yi Chen naturally knew what Guojia meant. Since he had decided not to return Kai Wenji, he naturally had to solve this matter completely. Otherwise, it would cause more trouble. However, Yi Chen did not care about the Wei clan of Hedong. No matter how much trouble they caused, they would not be able to create any waves. Therefore, even if the Wei clan of Hedong hated Yi Chen, they would not be able to cause any substantial harm to Yi Chen. However, one thing was for sure. If the Wei clan of Hedong could not be silenced, Yi Chen's reputation would be damaged. Although this was neither painful nor itchy, to Yi Chen, it would still have some negative effects. The reason Yi Chen did not agree with Guojia's idea was that Yi Chen did not want to argue with the Wei clan of Hedong. Unforeseen events could easily occur. For example, if the stubborn Kai Yong came forward, things would be difficult. Unless Yi Chen forcibly detained Kai Wenji. Once Kai Yong came forward to clarify things, Kai Wenji could only leave with Kai Yong and follow the same path as history. According to history, Kai Wenji would marry Wei Zhongdao and become a widow at a young age. After that, when war broke out, Kai Wenji would be captured by the Xiongnu and married to Prince Yen of the Left. She would stay with the Xiongnu for 12 years before being redeemed by Cao Cao and married to Dong Si. Simply put, according to history, Kai Wenji's life would be tragic. At the thought of this, Yi Chen felt a little annoyed. Now that Yi Chen had been reborn, he naturally would not allow Kai Wenji to walk down the same path as history. Moreover, Kai Wenji was also a beauty recognized by Wisdom Brain Pangu. She was extremely important to the Copper Sparrow Pavilion. Yi Chen would not give up on Kai Wenji. After a moment of silence, Yi Chen looked at Guojia and said, "There's no need to expose him. We'll set out tomorrow to attack the right north and eliminate the traitor Zhang Chen. I think the Wei clan of Hedong should be there." As soon as Yi Chen finished speaking, Guojia was stunned. He then bowed and said, "My lord is wise." Yi Chen's plan was not an ordinary one. How could Guojia not see through it? He was trying to drive the Wei family of Hedong to death. Zhang Chen was a traitor. If he found the weapons from the Wei clan of Hedong in Ping City, the Wei clan of Hedong would be skinned alive. When the time came, the Wei family of Hedong would have no choice but to compromise. Even if they compromised, it would depend on Yi Chen's mood. If he was unhappy, it wouldn't be a problem to kill the Wei family from Hedong. At that time, Hedong's Madame Wei would not dare to open her mouth. She could only be a mute and eat Chinese gold threads silently. Moreover, she had to eat it even if she did not want to. Who? Yi Chen let out a long breath, then looked at Zhao Meng and asked, "Have the soldiers been selected?" What Yi Chen meant by screening was that the soldiers had to be at least C rank before they could continue to be soldiers. Reincarnation City was built with a god-level village creation token. It had the overbearing ability to raise the aptitude of the people in the territory by 2 levels. Naturally, when a C rank was raised by 2 ranks, they would reach A rank. This was the path that Yi Chen's elite troops would take. Of course, if news of Yi Chen's elite troop route got out, it would definitely scare a lot of people to death. Motherf asterisk her. How could they play like this? Who could have so many elite soldiers? Taking everything into account, the total number of soldiers in a player's territory was no more than 10,000. Moreover, most of them were F rank. Yi Chen's troops were A rank at the very beginning. How could he have fun with them? Of course, No one knew how terrifying reincarnation soldiers were. With A-rank aptitude and huge potential, there were already over 100,000 of them. There were even 10,000 of them, the even more abnormal Samsara Legion. Hearing this, Zhao Meng hurriedly said, "My lord, out of the 820,000 surrendered soldiers, only 65,000 were selected. 65,000 is enough." Yichen nodded, then looked at Zhao Yun and asked, "Zilong, are you interested in forming a special army?" Hearing this, Zhao Yun's eyes suddenly widened. Then he said with incomparable shock, "My lord, Yun." Yi Chun raised his hand to interrupt Zhao Yun, then said, "Zilong, don't mention Zilong. Let's not talk about aptitude, let alone experience. There aren't many people with experience here. Even Zhao Meng hasn't participated in many battles. The same goes for Jianwei." At this point, Yi Chan said in a deep voice, "Zilong, do you have the confidence to lead a powerful special army?" Whoosh, Zhao Yun stood up. Then, with a bang, he knelt down on one knee and loudly replied, "Yun, I have the confidence." Zhao Yun had just finished his training and left the mountain. Originally, he wanted to join the army, but by chance, he met Yi Chun and became Yi Chen's brother-in-law. But this wasn't important. What was important was that Zhao Yun didn't expect Yi Chun to value him more than he had imagined, giving him the power to command an army. How could Zhao Yun not be excited? How could he not be excited? Yi Chun looked at the excited Zhao Yun and laughed, then said, "Good. I believe that Zilong will soon train a unique special army." Yi Chun wasn't talking nonsense, but Yi Chun knew that every superclass historical general would lead a unique special army. This was the characteristic of superclass historical generals. "Yin will do my best. I will train an iron-blooded army for my lord." Zhao Yun took a deep breath, exhaled, and then shouted loudly. Yi Chun nodded with a smile, then said, "The number of soldiers will be 50,000. You can choose any soldiers and horses you want. As long as Samsara City has weapons and armors, you can equip them. If you have any special needs, just tell me. If you can't buy them, then buy them. If you can't, then rob them." Zhao Yun's breathing became heavier when he heard this. After a while, Zhao Yun said seriously, "Yun, I swear to follow my lord until death. If I violate this oath, I will be destroyed by heaven and earth." Yi Chun could see and hear what Zhao Yun was thinking, and this was exactly what Yi Chun needed, loyalty. "Zilong, we're going to set out tomorrow. Are you willing to be the vanguard?" Yi Chun nodded with a smile, then asked, "Yun is willing to be the vanguard." Zhao Yun answered loudly without hesitation, "My lord, I'm willing to be the vanguard." Zhao Meng stood up, then knelt on one knee and shouted. Zhao Meng was really suffocated. He wasn't in the first ambush of the Wuhuan cavalry. He wasn't in Luoyang. He wasn't in Samsara City. He was in charge of preventing the enemy from escaping after the ambush. Now that they were going to quell the rebellion, Zhao Yun was the vanguard again. If he didn't fight for it, he would really become a general who trained the soldiers. This was not what Zhao Meng wanted to see. Yi Chun looked at Zhao Meng's serious face and was slightly stunned. He then asked, "Zhao Meng, do you want to be the vanguard or the adjutant?" "I'm willing to be." Zhao Meng suddenly paused, and then his face froze. He glanced at the expressionless Zhao Yun gloomily and then continued, "I'm willing to be the adjutant." Chapter 169. Zhao Meng naturally wanted to be the vanguard, but he couldn't compare to his younger brother, Zhao Yun, who was from the same clan. It was precisely because he knew this that Zhao Meng was somewhat depressed, but there was nothing he could do about it, even though he knew that Yi Chun would definitely give him the position of vanguard. But he didn't want to cause discord between his brothers and lose Yi Chun's trust. Yi Chun looked at the depressed Zhao Meng and shook his head helplessly. Then he said, "Zhao Meng, there's no need to be discouraged. If Zilong fails to lead the army, I will definitely punish him and strip him of his authority to lead the army." "Master." This general didn't. Zhao Meng was alarmed and hastily tried to speak, but before he could finish, Yi Chun raised his hand and interrupted him. Yi Chun glanced at Zhao Meng, and then he turned to Guojia, Dianwei, Zhao Yun, and Zhao Hong in the hall. When marching and fighting, Military law precedes everything. There are rewards for meritorious service and punishments for transgressions. This is the case for everyone. I put Zilong in an important position because I believe that he has the talent to lead the army, not because of his martial prowess. All officials of Samsara, regardless of who they are, will follow one rule. The capable will rise, and the mediocre will fall. Do you all understand? The moment Yi Chan finished speaking, Guojia, Dianwei, Zhao Yun, Zhao Heng, and Zhao Meng all bowed and replied, "Yes, Master." Yi Chen's meaning was simple and clear. Guojia, Dianwei, Zhao Yun, Zhao Heng, and Zhao Meng naturally understood. He was warning them not to feel uncomfortable just because they weren't satisfied with the positions they were given. If they wanted a satisfactory position, they could do so as long as they had the ability and showed it. And those who had obtained important positions couldn't be complacent, because they would be punished if they made a mistake. If they weren't as capable as others, they might be replaced. Yi Chen was also using this opportunity to tell Guojia, Zhao Yun, and the others that in the future there would be more and more generals and civil officials in Samsara. They should not feel uncomfortable. As long as they had the ability, everything would not be a problem. As for Guojia, Dianwei, and Zhao Yun, without exception, all three of them had this confidence. As for Zhao Meng and Zhao Heng, they were also confident. Although they were not as good as Guojia in terms of literature, and were better than Zhao Yun and Dianwei in terms of martial arts, they were still SSS-level talents. Others might not be able to easily suppress them. Looking at the confident crowd, Yi Chen couldn't help but smile. Then he looked at Zhao Heng and asked, "How's the construction of the soul-suppressing tablet and the wall at the entrance of the Reincarnation Valley coming along?" Hearing Yi Chen's question, Zhao Heng hurriedly bowed and answered, "My lord, the construction of the soul-suppressing monument has been completed. Due to the specifications of the city wall, 1/5 of it has been completed." Hearing this, Yi Chen nodded with satisfaction. Then, he said, "The city wall can speed up the construction. Try to speed it up." "Yes, my lord. I will send more people to speed up the construction." Zhao Heng nodded and replied, "The news of 100 Flowers wine has been spread. Did any merchants come?" Yi Chen smiled and asked, "My lord, 2 groups of merchants came, but they were all small merchants. After hearing the price of 100 Flowers wine, they all went back." Zhao Heng hesitated for a moment and then said, "Small merchant?" Yi Chen furrowed his brows and asked, "Yes, my lord. I think that in order to change the situation, Samsara City needs to build something." Zhao Heng nodded and then said, "Speak." Yi Chen was taken aback for a moment. Then he said, "My lord, please apply for the construction of a teleportation formation. With a teleportation formation, it will definitely attract a large number of merchants." Zhao Heng bowed and said. Hearing this, Yi Chen suddenly realized something. Samsara City was in the Reincarnation Valley. Outside the valley was the Reincarnation Forest. The road had not been repaired yet. If people wanted to find Samsara City, they had to rely on luck. But with a teleportation formation, it would be different. Those merchants who were interested in 100 Flowers wine would definitely teleport over. Then, the plan could be carried out. They could sell 100 Flowers wine to those merchants and obtain high-quality resources from them. Then, they could start the construction of the Copper Sparrow Pavilion. However, there were advantages and disadvantages to a teleportation formation. If merchants could come to Samsara City, then so could players. As long as someone used the teleportation formation, they would definitely see the option of Samsara City. Then, it would attract a large number of players. Yi Chen was very sure of this. This was because the teleportation formation only had 2 options. Once a large number of players came to Samsara City, it would definitely be destroyed. They would attack Yi Chen or the army of Samsara City. Yi Chen was not worried. However, if they attacked the citizens of Samsara City, then it would be a disaster. There were more than 1 billion players. Even if there were 10 million players, it would be enough to make Samsara City suffer. Thinking of this, Yi Chen frowned. "My lord, are you worried that the teleportation formation can only be opened or closed?" Guojia smiled and asked. Hearing this, Yi Chen was stunned. Then his eyes lit up and he said, "Feng Shao, do you have a solution? My lord, do you know the level of the teleportation formation in Luoyang Palace? Guojia asked with a chuckle. The teleportation formation in Luoyang Palace. Yichen was slightly taken aback. He looked at Guojia in confusion and said, if I remember correctly, the teleportation formation in Luoyang Palace can't be used by inhumans. As soon as Yichen said this, he immediately realized what Guojia meant. He quickly asked, what do you mean? He hurriedly asked, Feng Xiao, are you saying that the teleportation formation in Luoyang Palace can only be used by inhumans like me? Guojia nodded and said, that's correct. My lord, if we want to prevent inhumans from breaking into Samsara City, we must build a teleportation formation of the same level as the one in Luoyang Palace. Once a heaven-grade teleportation formation is built, it can automatically create subsidiary teleportation formations that won't be affected by teleportation formations in the outside world. How much will it cost? Yichen's eyes widened and he asked. Yichen had never imagined that a heaven-grade teleportation formation would have so many benefits. Being able to create subsidiary teleportation formations on its own would save him a lot of money. Not being affected by teleportation formations in the outside world meant that as long as there was a teleportation formation in Yichen's territory, he could teleport there, even during wartime. After all, once the Dongjue Rebellion started, all the teleportation formations in the Great Han Empire would automatically shut down and become unusable. Moreover, this would continue until a new emperor appeared and unified the three kingdoms. Just this point alone was enough for Yichen to make up his mind to build a heaven-grade teleportation formation. 1 million purple gold coins. Guojia raised a finger and said, holy shit, 10 billion credits to build a teleportation formation? That's way too expensive. Thinking of this, Yichen said without hesitation, build it. Apply for it immediately. Chapter 170. My lord is wise. I will have no regrets, even if I die, following you. Guojia lifted his robe and bowed solemnly when he heard this. Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Zhao Heng, and Zhao Ming looked at each other and bowed in unison. My lord is wise. They all know that I'm going to be the king. Well, at least no one has any negative reactions. Thinking of this, Yichen smirked and said, let's go and apply for a teleportation portal. Yes, my lord. My lord. Everyone replied in unison, then followed Yichen out of the city lord's mansion. When they arrived at the square of Samsara City, Yichen summoned his official seal and activated it. The next second, the system beeped. Ding! Player Yichen has applied for a sky-level teleportation portal. Checking wealth. 1,222,000 purple gold coins. Met the requirement. Checking official rank. Great Han Empire grade, 3 military officer. Met the requirement. Checking territory. Samsara City, city-level territory. Met the requirement. Ding. Application accepted. Cost, 1 million purple gold coins. Ding. Please select the location of the sky-level teleportation portal. A map of Samsara City appeared in front of Yichen. Yichen tapped it and the map disappeared. Ding. Construction begins. When the system beeped, a beam of light shone on the square of Samsara City. When the beam of light disappeared, a gigantic teleportation portal appeared on the ground. Damn, it's done so easily? Yichen was stunned and looked at the teleportation portal. Teleportation portal, sky-level function, teleportation. Can be turned off or turned on. Feature 1. Automatically spawns auxiliary teleportation portals. One can be spawned every month. Provided with void stones, it can be spawned instantly. Feature 2. Set the user range of the teleportation portal. Feature 3. Independent teleportation system. Not subject to external interference. Feature 4. Greatly increases the territory's reputation. Yichen was stunned when he saw the stats of the sky-level teleportation portal. Damn, it has the ability to increase the territory's reputation? Not bad, not bad. It's easier for historical figures to appear in Samsara City. Thinking up to this point, Yichen walked directly to the heaven-level teleportation array. Ding! Teleportation array, heaven grade. Do you wish to set it up? If you do not set it up, it will automatically be assumed that all living beings can use it. Nonsense, it must be a setting. After Yi-chan finished thinking, the system notification sounded again. Please choose the range of restrictions. 1 human, 2 demon, 3 witch for players, and 5 NPCs. Demons, witches, and players are forbidden. Yi-chan made his choice without hesitation. Ding. Setup complete. Would you like to activate the teleportation circle? Activate. In the next second, starlight shot out in all directions, and a series of teleportation lists appeared before Yi-chan's eyes. Yi-chan couldn't help but smile when he saw the list of names on the teleportation array. A heaven-level teleportation portal was indeed a heaven-level teleportation portal. There was no need to borrow a path from Samsara City to anywhere else. They could just teleport to wherever they wanted to go. Congratulations, my lord. Congratulations. Guojia, Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, Zhao Meng, and Zhao Heng bowed in unison. Yi-chan laughed heartily, then looked at Dian Wei and said, Dian Wei, you will stay behind to guard Samsara City tomorrow. My lord, I am the commander of the guards. Dian Wei was slightly taken aback before he spoke up. If I tell you to stay, then stay. If you say another word, I'll starve you for 3 days. Yi-chan glared at Dian Wei before he spoke. Dian Wei panicked when he heard this, but he didn't dare to say another word. My lord, Zhao Meng's face turned red when he saw this, and he hurriedly bowed. However, before he could finish, Yi-chan interrupted him. You will be the adjutant, and Zhao Yun will be the vanguard. This matter has been decided, so there's no need for further discussion. What you need to consider is how to break into the city and kill the enemy when the 2 armies clash. Yes, my lord. When Zhao Meng heard this, he knew that the matter had been decided. He looked at Dian Wei apologetically and replied loudly. Yi-chan nodded, then looked at Dian Wei and said, Dian Wei, are you willing to follow me to my world? Dian Wei's eyes lit up when he heard this, and he shouted loudly, My lord, I am willing. He looked as if he was afraid that someone would snatch it from him. Yi-chan chuckled and nodded. Then, with a wave of his hand, the 2-world stone appeared in Yi-chan's hand. Use it, then I'll bring you to my world. Yi-chan said and handed the 2-world stone to Dian Wei. Dian Wei took it without hesitation and chose to use it. In the next second, the 2-world stone disappeared, and Yi-chan grabbed Dian Wei's shoulder and said, Don't resist. After Yi-chan said this, he used his mind and saw Yi-chan and Dian Wei disappear together. In the real world, Reincarnation City, Yinhu, who was squatting beside the heaven-level soul gathering formation, suddenly stood up and looked fiercely at the side of the diamond-level gaming chamber. A ball of golden light appeared out of thin air. After a few breaths, the golden light disappeared, and Dian Wei, who had left the game, appeared out of thin air. When Yinhu saw Dian Wei, he was first stunned, then he put on a harmless look. Although he didn't know Dian Wei, he could feel that Dian Wei was Yi-chan's subordinate. Otherwise, he would have attacked Dian Wei long ago, even though Yinhu couldn't defeat Dian Wei at this moment. Creak. The door of the gaming chamber opened, and Yi-chan stood up and walked out. My lord. Dian Wei saw Yi-chan and hurriedly bowed. This is my world, and Reincarnation City has been built here. You can familiarize yourself with it. If you want to return to that world, all you need to do is think about it, and you can go back at any time. Yi-chan smiled and said, My lord, won't I be able to protect you more if I'm here? Dian Wei was stunned for a moment, then asked, There's no need to go through so much trouble. Reincarnation City's defense is very strong here, and Yinhu is guarding it. You can stay in that world most of the time. When I need help, you can come back. Yi-chan smiled and said, What if my lord is in danger? Wouldn't it be too late? Dian Wei scratched the back of his head and asked, There's no one in this world that can hurt me at the moment. All right, let's hurry back. We can't let Feng Xiao, Zilong, and the others wait for too long. Yi-chan laughed and said, Yes, my lord. Dian Wei nodded and said. Yi-chan smiled and lay back down in the diamond gaming chamber. When the chamber door closed, Yi-chan returned to the game world. When Yi-chan entered the game, his body was still in the real world. However, Dianwei was different. The moment he entered the game world, his body disappeared from the real world. Although Dianwei obtained the two-world stone and came to the real world, Dianwei couldn't obtain the identity of a player. He still only had one life. Chapter 171. Primordial Age, 3 Kingdoms, Samsara City, Square. 2 beams of light appeared one after another. Yi Chun and Dianwei, who had just logged off, appeared one after another. My lord, Guojia, Zhao Yun, Zhao Meng, and Zhao Heng bowed to Yi Chun, who had just appeared. Yi Chun smiled and nodded. Then he said, "All right, go back and rest early. We'll set out to quell the rebellion tomorrow." "Yes, my lord. Yes, my lord." Everyone replied in unison. Yi Chun looked at everyone and then walked toward the castellan's mansion. Yi Chun left, but Zhao Heng, Zhao Meng, Zhao Yun, and Guojia did not. The 4 of them dragged Dianwei to the side to ask Dianwei what the real world was like. They were very curious about the real world. Of course, they wanted to follow Yi Chun to the real world. Unfortunately, the first one to go was Dianwei. Castellan's mansion. The moment Yi Chun entered, the world channel, which had been quiet, was suddenly flooded with messages. "Damn! Look, Samsara City. I saw Samsara City. Where is it? Where is it?" "In the teleportation portal." "Damn! There's an option for Samsara City. We can teleport to Samsara City." "Damn! Teleport. What are you waiting for?" "Ha ha ha! Boss Yi Chun is so awesome. He's welcoming all of us to Samsara City." "Damn! We can't teleport. How is that possible? Why can't we teleport? Isn't Samsara City already here? Could it be that the teleportation portal has some restrictions? Damn! There's no justice in this world. Boss Yi Chun is so unkind. He built the teleportation portal, but he won't teleport us. I strongly request Boss Yi Chun to activate the teleportation function. We want to go to Samsara City." "Yes, we want to go to Samsara City for fun." Yi Chun saw the content of the players' discussions in the World Channel. He casually read a few of them and then stopped paying attention. What a joke. Once the teleportation function was activated, Samsara City would be filled with players in less than 10 minutes. Then, Samsara City would be attacked immediately. There were very few people who didn't take any action. Moreover, there was a possibility that they would participate in the attack on Samsara City under the influence of those who took action. On this point, Yi Chun was very sure. City Lord's mansion, back residence. As soon as Yi Chun arrived at the back residence, he heard the sound of a zither. It was pleasing to the ears, making people feel refreshed after hearing it. It was like a mysterious sound, moving the 9 heavens. This is Kai Yan's music. Thinking of this, Yi Chun hesitated for a moment before following the sound of the zither. Not long after, Yi Chun arrived at the pavilion at the back of the residence. There was a 28-year-old girl in a white dress that fluttered in the wind. Her slender and fair fingers were gently plucking the strings of a zither. Her devastatingly beautiful face was reflected under the moonlight, looking exceptionally otherworldly. It was indeed Kai Yan. The moment he saw Kai Yan, Yi Chun had a moment of absent-mindedness. Her beauty was different from Diao Chan's, and her temperament was also different. It could be said that they each had their own merits. Yi Chun didn't speak. He just stood there quietly, looking at Kai Yan's beautiful face and listening to her music. As time went by, Yi Chun suddenly found that his mind was gradually clear, and his comprehension was rapidly improving. Some parts of a 9 Revolutions mysterious art that he didn't understand before were instantly understood. The Shunxiao thunder-controlling technique, which was also obscure and difficult to understand, also opened the door for Yi Chun at this moment. Thinking of this, Yi Chun began to practice the Shunxiao thunder-controlling technique without hesitation. Because the Shunxiao thunder-controlling technique was even more obscure than the 9 Revolutions mysterious art. It didn't mean that the Shunxiao thunder-controlling technique was more advanced than the 9 Revolutions mysterious art. It was just that Yi Chun hadn't come into contact with those mysterious information. So at the beginning, he didn't know anything. Originally, Yichen also planned to take time to comprehend the Shunxiao thunder-controlling technique. But now it seemed that there was no need. With the help of the Shunxiao thunder-controlling technique and Kai Yan's music, the door had been opened for Yichen. 1 minute, 2 minutes, half an hour, 2 hours. In the middle of cultivation, Yichen's body surface suddenly flashes of lightning, small and numerous, and when they moved, thunder kept roaring. After a cup of tea's time, Yichen suddenly opened his eyes, and thunder flashed in his eyes. It was done. The Shunxiao thunder-controlling technique was really learned, and it was learned in a sealed state. Yichen was ecstatic. After thinking about it, the beautiful and wonderful music came to an abrupt end. "Congratulations, General." A clear voice with a hint of exhaustion was heard at this moment. When Yichen heard this, he immediately looked at Kai Yan. The next second, Yichen's heart trembled. He saw that Kai Yan's originally slender and white fingers were now stained with blood. Her face, which was originally beautiful, was now pale. She leaned weakly against the pillar of the pavilion, and her breath was weak. Yichen moved and then came to Kai Yan's side. He picked up Kai Yan and then went to the main house. As soon as he entered the door, Zhao Yu and Diao Chan were whispering something. "Husband," Zhao Yu saw Yichen coming back with Kai Yan in his arms. She couldn't help but be stunned and then shocked. She saw that Kai Yan's state was very wrong. "Come on, look at her. Is it serious?" Yichen hurriedly said. "Husband, quickly put her on the bed," Zhao Yu hurriedly said. Yichen nodded and then put Kai Yan down. Zhao Yu then began to examine Kai Yan. "Husband, was the injury on Sister Kai Yan's fingers caused by playing the zither?" Diao Chan looked at Yichen and asked doubtfully. "You didn't hear it?" Yichen was slightly taken aback and then asked. "No, I was in the room with Sister Zhao Yu the whole time. We didn't." Diao Chan suddenly paused, and then her expression changed. "Husband, did you cultivate while Sister Kai Yan was playing the zither?" When Yichen heard this, he nodded subconsciously. "Husband, Sister Kai Yan wanted to use this to ask you to let her go." Diao Chan sighed and then said, "What's the matter?" Yichen frowned and then asked. "Husband, Sister Zhao Yu and I both have an innate ability. My ability is divine martial arts, which can help you to advance to the next level. Sister Zhao Yu's ability is rejuvenation, which can help you recover to your peak state in an instant." Diao Chan stopped and looked at Kai Yan, who was extremely weak not far away. Then she continued, "Sister Kai Yan also has an ability. Her ability is Epiphany. This ability can't be used casually. If it's light, it will consume 10 years of your life. If it's heavy..." When Yichen heard this, he suddenly frowned. Yichen understood Diao Chan's meaning. Kai Yan wanted to use her innate ability in exchange for a chance to leave. She wanted to leave Samsara City. Thinking of this, Yichen was silent for a moment. Then he walked to the bedside and looked at Kai Yan, who was extremely weak. He said solemnly, "I don't know what you're thinking. Maybe the matchmaker's words are very important to you. But to me, it's bullshit. You haven't even seen Wei Zhongdao's face, yet you're willing to give up your life. Is it really worth it? I admire and appreciate your willingness to sacrifice your life in exchange for freedom. But now I can tell you one thing clearly. You're mine, and no one can take you away from me. You can leave Samsara City if you want. As long as Samsara City is destroyed, you can leave." Chapter 172. Kai Yan was still conscious, so she heard Yichen's overbearing words. She struggled to get up, but she couldn't move. "Well, sister, rest well. You're not in a good condition to move." Zhao Yu sighed and said, "General, you're General Pingbei of the Great Han Empire, a first earl. I've never met you before. Why do you have to be a bandit?" Kai Yan looked at Yichen helplessly and asked. Hearing Kai Yan's question, Yichen glanced at Kai Yan and said seriously, "I need you." Kai Yan was stunned by such straightforward and shameless words. She had thought of all the excuses that Yichen might give, and she had also thought of a countermeasure. As long as Yichen continued to answer step by step, he would eventually be rendered speechless, and she might be allowed to leave. But she didn't expect Yichen to say that. It was so simple and so rude. The words, I need you shattered all the countermeasures she had thought of. I. Kaiyan opened her mouth and didn't know what to say. Then, with a wah sound, she started to cry. Seeing this, Zhao Yu hurriedly comforted Kaiyan. Yichen curled his lips and said, "Don't cry. It's fine. You'll cry sooner or later. It's uncomfortable to hold it in. After crying so many times, you'll be numb and won't be able to cry anymore. After all, she'll stay in Samsara City for the rest of her life. She'll get used to it after a long time." Kaiyan cried even harder when she heard this. She suddenly realized that General Pingbei of the Great Han Empire was a bandit. He was rude, unreasonable, and inhumane. He didn't know how to be kind to women. Originally, she wanted to bring up her father, Kai Yong, to make Yichun back off. But now, it seemed that it was impossible. She could tell that Yichun was determined to get her. He would never let her leave Samsara City. Thinking of this, Kaiyan felt even sadder. She was supposed to get married on the east side of the river. She passed by a small town to rest, but she was kidnapped and brought to Samsara City. 1 or 2 days was acceptable. He could use the excuse of hiding from the bandits in Samsara City. As time passed, even if Yichun did not touch her at all, and even let her go, it would be useless. Anyone who saw this would think that things were definitely not that simple. It would be strange if nothing happened between a woman who was about to get married and had stayed in someone else's residence for so long. If one person said it, 2 people would say it, and then everyone in the world would say it. This way, there would be no place for her in this world. Moreover, her father, Kai Yong, would also be implicated. His illustrious reputation would be destroyed in an instant, and she would also be said to be a loose woman. "My husband." Diao-chan tugged at Yichun, motioning Yichun not to say that. Kaiyan was a girl. How could he treat her so rudely? Yichun glared at Diao-chan, then looked at Kaiyan and said, "I'm ordered by the emperor to kill the rebels. I'm about to go to war tomorrow. I just received news that some of the weapons and provisions in Ping City in the north of the river came from the Wei family of Hedong." As soon as Yichun finished speaking, Kaiyan was stunned. She immediately understood what Yichun meant. He was going to destroy the Wei family of Hedong. "You, how could you?" Kaiyan shouted in shock. "How could you be so despicable? How can you be so despicable?" The corners of Yichun's mouth curled up as he asked. "The Wei family of Hedong is a noble family. They are descendants of loyal men. Why would you treat them like this? You are the general who pacifies the north of the Great Han Empire." Kaiyan shouted in exasperation. "Anyone who stands in my way is my enemy. Moreover, the evidence is conclusive. Also, I want to ask you, do you want your reputation to be ruined?" Yichun paused for a moment, then asked in a low voice, "Or are you really willing to marry Wei Zhongdao, who you have never met, who you have no feelings for, and who could lose his life at any time?" When Kaiyan heard this, her expression changed, and she fell silent. What Yichun said was something she had thought about before. Yichun had said it once before. She was running away from it and didn't want to face this problem again. But now, Yichun had brought her a series of blows and asked her again. She finally began to face this problem seriously. In fact, she didn't like the marriage that Kai Yong had arranged for her. However, the parents' orders and the matchmaker's words had become the iron law of this era. If she dared to violate it, she would definitely be condemned and reviled by the world. She had no choice, but there was nothing she could do. Seeing Kaiyan's expression, Yichun inwardly sighed in relief. "Damn it, do you think it's easy for me? This is the work of evil people." At this thought, Yichun once again spoke in a low voice. "I can help you resolve this matter. As for Assistant Minister Kai, I will send someone to mediate. I won't make things difficult for you." When Kaiyan heard this, she bit her lip and asked, "Then the Hedong Wei clan, unreasonable." Yichun snorted, flung his sleeves, and turned to leave. When he was outside, Yichun's lips curled up. "Damn it, at least I didn't act as an evil person for nothing." Kaiyan is mine. At this moment, Diao-chan walked out and suppressed her laughter as she walked to Yichun's side. Seeing Diao-chan's expression, Yichun immediately realized that Diao-chan had discovered that he had pretended to be an evil person. Yichun glared at Diao-chan, then flicked Diao Chan's forehead and said in a low voice, "Let's sleep at your place tonight." "Yes, that's what my sister said. She wants to take care of Sister Kai Yen." Diao Chan smiled sweetly and then said softly. Yi Chen smiled and then left with Diao Chan in his arms. At dawn the next day, Yi Chen dressed up with Diao Chan's help and then went to the drill ground. On the drill ground, banners fluttered in the wind, and spears lined up like a forest. Zhao Yun, Zhao Meng, and Guo Jiao were already waiting here. Behind them were 110,000 Samsara soldiers. Yi Chen climbed onto the platform and looked at the densely packed soldiers of Samsara City. Swish! 110,000 soldiers uniformly knelt on one knee. "Greetings, my lord!" 110,000 soldiers shouted in unison, their voices shaking the sky. Majestic, austere, and iron-blooded, these are the aura that 110,000 Samsara soldiers exuded at this moment. Yi Chen nodded and then shouted, "Today we are going to attack the traitor Zhang Chun. Are you confident?" "Kill! Kill! Kill!" 110,000 soldiers raised their spears and shouted in unison. Yi Chen nodded with satisfaction and then shouted, "That's right. When marching to war, there are rewards for meritorious deeds and punishments for wrongdoings. If you die in battle, your parents and children will be supported by Samsara City. You will receive a monthly pension of 1 gold and 10 mu of land. You will not be granted any taxes for life." Phew! Phew! The sound of heavy breathing could be heard in waves. The 65,000 new soldiers had already heard this news from the veterans of Samsara City. Now that Yi Chen said it himself, they were instantly excited. Joining the army to fight was nothing more than to let their families live a good life. Their thinking was very simple. As long as they had food to eat, clothes to wear, and fields to grow, they would live a good life. When they came to Samsara City, they had all these and live a good life. Now, Yi Chen's words solved their biggest worry. What they needed to do was very simple. They needed to pick up their weapons and follow Yi Chen to create a lifetime of glory. Chapter 173. Yi Chen looked at the excited Samsara soldiers and nodded in satisfaction. Then, he looked at Zhao Yun and shouted, "Zhao Yun, this general is here." Zhao Yun stepped forward and knelt on one knee as he loudly replied, "You will be the vanguard. Lead 50,000 soldiers and attack the right side of Beiping." Yi Chen shouted, "Yes, sir." Zhao Yun replied, "Zhao Meng." Yi Chen looked at Zhao Meng and shouted, "Yes, sir." Zhao Meng stepped out and got down on one knee. "You will be the vanguard. Follow Zhao Yun and attack the right side of Beiping." Yi Chen shouted, "Yes, sir." Zhao Meng replied, "Let's go." Yi Chen waved his right hand and shouted, "Yes, sir." "Yes, sir." Zhao Yun and Zhao Meng replied in unison. Then, they left the drill ground with the 50,000 soldiers they had chosen overnight. Yi Chen looked at Dian Wei and said, "Dian Wei, you will guard Samsara City. Choose soldiers from those who are not qualified enough to enter the military camp. The requirement is B grade. The number of soldiers will be set at 100,000. "Yes, sir." Dian Wei got down on one knee and replied loudly. There were at least 200,000 rebels in Beiping. Yi Chen could not leave all 110,000 elite soldiers in Samsara City. Therefore, Yi Chen brought all of Samsara City's elite soldiers with him. However, Samsara City could not be left unguarded. Therefore, Yi Chen prepared some soldiers to guard Samsara City. This would be a headache for any other lord, but for Yi Chen, it was easy. Dian Wei had brought back more than 800,000 surrendered soldiers. It would be more than easy to select another 100,000 soldiers with level B aptitudes. After all, Samsara City had the heaven-defying ability to raise the qualifications of its citizens by 2 grades. A person with grade B aptitude turned out to be a grade D aptitude. It was very easy for him to gather 100,000 yuan. Of course, it was impossible for their aptitude to be higher than the soldiers who were currently on the expedition. They were at least grade A or grade B. As for the other lords, there were only a few C-class lords, not to mention B-class, A-class, or even B-class lords. Yi Chen nodded, then looked at Guijia and asked, Feng Xiao, is everything ready? When Guijia heard Yi Chen's question, he smiled and bowed. My lord, everything is ready. I guarantee that nothing will go wrong. Yi Chen wasn't asking about strategic resources, but the things that could be used to trick the Wei clan of Hedong. Naturally, Guijia could tell, but he wouldn't say it out loud. This matter was only known to Yi Chen, Guijia, Zhao Yun, and the others. It cannot be spread out. Very good. Then, as Yi Chen spoke, he looked at the remaining soldiers on the drill ground, waved his right hand, and shouted in a deep voice, set off. Yes, my lord. 60,000 soldiers replied in unison. Then they followed Yi Chen to the square of Samsara City. In the square of Samsara City, at the heaven-level transmission formation, Zhao Yun and Zhao Ming led 50,000 soldiers and stepped onto the transmission formation in batches. Following the soldiers were their war horses. This time, everyone in Samsara City was on the expedition to quell the rebellion. Each person had a war horse, Mingguang armor, steel points, spears, and hornbows. This was the standard equipment of Samsara City soldiers. Dismounted, they were infantrymen. Mounted, they were cavalrymen. In order to quell the rebellion in Yuzhou as soon as possible, Yi Chen had invested a lot. Of course, this was only in the eyes of others. To Yi Chen, if he could equip himself with the best equipment, he would definitely not choose the worst. No matter how much he spent, it was just a number. However, the soldiers were fighting for Yi Chen with their lives. Naturally, Yi Chen would give the best equipment to his soldiers. Although Yi Chen didn't care about this, the soldiers were very touched. On the battlefield, weapons had no eyes. Good equipment would definitely increase the chances of survival. He was asking how many of the soldiers outside could be equipped with a full set of silver equipment and a war horse. None at all, but Samsara City had it. Their lord, Yi Chen, had given each of them a full set of silver equipment and a war horse. Therefore, the soldiers were very touched. They were willing to risk their lives for Yi Chen. Even if they died in battle, they weren't afraid. The pension policy of the Samsara City solved their worries. The soldiers were teleported one after another. Soon, Zhao Yun and Zhao Ming left Samsara City. At the transmission formation in Yangli County, wave after wave of cavalrymen wearing Mingguang armor, carrying horn bows, steel points, and spears appeared at the transmission formation. Then they rushed out of the city. The players in Yangli County were all shocked. If it weren't for the fact that many of the players knew that they couldn't block the cavalrymen's path, there would have been people blocking the way and begging to be killed or asking for quests. Damn, what's going on? Why are there so many cavalrymen? Are they going to war? Don't you see the murderous aura on them? Why do I feel that these cavalrymen look familiar? Damn, I remember now. These are Yi Chen's cavalrymen. Yi Chen's cavalrymen are equipped with this kind of equipment. Damn, all of them are silver equipment. How much do they cost? Take a look at how many people there are. Mother asterisk her, Yi Chen is too generous. Damn, there are 50,000 cavalrymen now. Yi Chen has 50,000 cavalrymen? Others don't even have 50,000 cavalrymen, but Yi Chen has 50,000 cavalrymen. At this moment, Zhao Yun and Zhao Ming appeared from the transmission formation on their white horses. In the next second, a wave of exclamations came from the players' mouths. Damn, Zhao Yun, that's Zhao Yun. Where is he? Where is he? Damn, it's really Zhao Yun. That aura, he's too handsome. But why is he following Yi Chen? Damn, Yi Chen's going to make a big move. I wonder who's going to be the unlucky one. Zhao Yun naturally heard the players' discussions. However, Zhao Yun's face was expressionless. Zhao Ming, on the other hand, was furious. He wanted to kill those players who spoke rudely to Yi Chen. Let's go, Zhao Yun shouted. Then, he squeezed his horse's abdomen and galloped forward. Zhao Ming glared at the players angrily. Then, he quickly followed. At this moment, the originally calm world channel exploded. Extra! Extra! Yi Chen has deployed his troops. I wonder who he's attacking. I saw it with my own eyes. I even saw Zhao Yun. Damn, is this for real? Where is he? Tell me. Yangli County. Ah, Boss Yi-chun is angry. I wonder which idiot offended Boss Yi-chun. He's going to be tortured. Someone must have offended Yi-chun. Otherwise, why would he send out Zhao Yun? What I want to know is whether Yi-chun has appeared. How many troops did he send? I'll tell you. I stood at the teleportation portal and counted. 50,000 people. To be precise, it's 50,000 cavalrymen. They're all wearing silver-grade armor, silver-grade spears, and silver-grade hornbows. Damn, I don't believe it. Many people can't even gather 10,000 soldiers. Yi-chun has 50,000 cavalrymen, and they're all wearing silver-grade equipment? Hee, you have to believe it even if you don't believe it. I saw it with my own eyes. Let me ask you one thing. Are you afraid? Chapter 174. Damn, Reincarnation City is sending out troops again, and they are all cavalry. Mother Vastrasker, Boss Yi-chun is so awesome. How many cavalries are there? Cavalry again? Damn, I'm not playing anymore. This is too demoralizing. I only have 500 soldiers, and I don't even have a single horse. How am I supposed to play? If you're not playing, you can leave. No one will stop you. Damn, I just want to know where Yi-chun is going. It feels like he is doing a quest. Yuzhou, Yangli County. Wave after wave of cavalry walked out of the teleportation portal and charged out of the city. At this moment, two people rode out of the teleportation portal. Yi-chun. That's Yi-chun. A player shouted when he saw Yi-chun. Damn, who is that beside him? Could it be Guijia? Dian Wei is ugly, and Zhao Yun is unbelievably handsome. This guy has to be Guijia. There's no doubt about it. While the players were discussing, a player suddenly shouted at Yi-chun. Boss Yi-chun, take me in as your underling. As soon as he said that, a group of people followed suit and shouted, Boss Yi-chun, please take me in as your underling. I'm absolutely loyal and will never betray you. I'm also loyal. I will do whatever Boss Yi-chun asks me to do. Yi-chun looked at the players and then at Guijia. He said, Feng Shao, speed up. Yes, Lord. Guijia replied, and then followed Yi-chun out of the city. Yi-chun left, and the players were furious. What is Yi-chun doing? Why is he ignoring us? He is looking down on us. Damn, why is he acting like a big shot? That's right, he is just good at the game. Does he really think he is a big shot? Why do I feel like Yi-chun doesn't trust anyone? In the outskirts of Yangli County, tens of thousands of horses galloped, causing the earth to tremble. Countless cavalrymen headed straight for Ping City. Noon, on the city walls of Ping City in the north. Rumble. The thunderous sound of horse hooves came from afar. The soldiers on duty hurriedly looked into the distance. In the next second, his eyes widened and he screamed, Enemy attack! Enemy attack! Close the city gates! Close the city gates! Dang, dang, dang! Then, the sound of a gong rang out. At this moment, the soldiers on duty at the city gate also saw the crazed horsemen swarming over like a tidal wave. They shuddered and hurriedly closed the city gate. At this time, there were already soldiers rushing towards the city lord's mansion to report the appearance of the cavalry to Zhangchun. Right north, outside Ping City, Zhao Yun led 50,000 soldiers here. Zhao Yun narrowed his eyes as he stared at the tightly shut city gate on his right. Zilong, do you want to go first? Zhao Meng looked at Zhao Yun expectantly and asked. Zhao Meng was already an emperor-level general, so he wanted to find some enemies to test. Moreover, killing a general in front of battle could greatly reduce the morale of the enemy. This was killing two birds with one stone. When Zhao Yun heard this, he shook his head and said, The city lord is currently in charge of Ping City. My lord, you will only be able to quell the rebellion for 10 days at most in Ping City. It would be best if you can break into the city as soon as possible. You cannot challenge us again. All right, it's a pity. However, the city lord has given us 10,000 ballistae. With these weapons, there's no need to challenge anyone, Zhao Meng sighed and said. Zhao Yun nodded and shouted, Ballistae, get ready. Yes, sir. The 10,000 soldiers replied in unison. Then they dismounted and unstrapped the ballistae from their backs. Right north, Ping City, City Lord's mansion. Bang! When Zhang Chun heard the soldiers' report, He slammed his hand on the table and shouted angrily, "What did you say? 50,000 cavalrymen fully equipped with silver equipment? Do you know what crime it is to lie about military intelligence?" When the soldier who came to report heard this, his face instantly turned deathly pale. He hurriedly opened his mouth and he quickly said, "General, it's true. The enemy really has 50,000 cavalrymen fully equipped with silver equipment. General, the foolish ruler actually sent out 50,000 cavalrymen fully equipped with silver equipment. This is very strange. According to what I know, the Great Han Empire doesn't have such a cavalry unit." A man dressed as a military advisor bowed and said, "Then who could it be?" Zhang Chun asked with an ashen face. "I don't know. However, there's one thing I'm sure of. The enemy is nothing to worry about," the military advisor said with a smile. When Zhang Chun heard this, he was stunned. Then he realized what the military advisor meant. Haha, cavalry. Not to mention 50,000 cavalrymen. Even if it's 100,000 cavalrymen. What can they do? I want to see how they can break into my Ping City. Zhang Chun laughed loudly. This general requests battle. A middle-aged general stepped forward and replied loudly. Are you confident? Zhang Chun looked at the general and asked. The enemy general is just a child. In less than 3 rounds, this general will definitely kill him. The middle-aged general shouted confidently. Good. I'll wait for your good news. Zhang Chun laughed and said, Yes, General. General. After the middle-aged general finished speaking, he left the hall and went out of the city to issue a challenge. Outside Ping City, Zhao Yun looked at the 10,000 ballistae that were ready. He waved his right hand and shouted, Aim at the city wall and fire. Woo, woo, the sound of the arrows piercing through the air was heard. Incomparably thick arrows made of special materials were shot towards the city walls in an overwhelming manner. Ping City, Ping City, Ping City, Ping City. What is that? A soldier saw the arrows flying towards him and was stunned. He then shouted in shock. His question was not answered at all. This was because the thick arrows had already landed on the city wall. Poof, poof, poof. Countless rebel soldiers were pierced through by the special bolts of the ballistae, nailing them to the city walls. Some of them were even sent flying out of the city walls by the ballistae and fell to the ground. This is the ballistae. Damn it. Hurry up and report to the general that the enemy has ballistae. How? How are we going to fight this? Even shields are useless against the ballistae's arrows. Outside Ping City. Zhao Yun saw that the first wave of arrows was very accurate. He squinted his eyes and shouted, Prepare the kerosene. In the next second, the 10,000 ballistae began to move. When the 10,000 ballistae were ready, Zhao Yun waved his right hand and shouted, Attack! Woo, woo, woo. 10,000 ballistae's special arrows flew towards Ping City wall, along with cans of kerosene. Pa, pa, pa. A series of sounds were heard. The city wall of Ping City was covered with countless black objects. Some fell outside the city wall, while some fell inside the city wall. However, the amount was very small. Most of them landed on the city wall. When Zhao Yun saw that most of the kerosene had landed on the city wall, his eyes widened and he shouted, Continue. Chapter 175. Woo, woo, woo. The sound of something breaking through the air rang out again. 10,000 thick, special arrows flew toward the city walls of Ping City on the right, along with jars filled with kerosene. Pa, 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 the sound of countless cans shattering rang out. Poo, pu, pu. Another group of rebel soldiers were nailed to the walls by the thick bolts. Ping City, Ping City, Ping City. The rebel soldiers were shot to pieces by the ballistae, but a portion of them were still alive. At this moment, a rebel soldier noticed a black, oily liquid beside him. What exactly was that? The next second, he screamed in horror, Kerosene. It's kerosene. Run. The enemy is going to set fire to Ping City in the right. A horrified roar followed closely. The surviving soldiers on the city wall all ran towards the horse path in a panic. They did not dare to stay here any longer. If they did, they would either be burned to death or shot to death. There was no way they could fight this battle. One of the rebel generals drew his sword from his waist and yelled angrily at the soldiers who were running away. "Let's go. Those who flee before battle will be killed without mercy." The rebel soldiers all stopped. They knew that they would be executed if they fled. This was a military rule. That was why they hesitated. At this moment, the sound of something breaking through the air rang out again. "Woo, woo, woo. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. General, let's get down from the city. If we don't, we will all die here." "That's right, General. Give the order. The enemy is going to burn us to death." Pa, 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 countless cans of kerosene smashed against the city walls and shattered. The kerosene inside flowed out. Poo, pu, pu. A series of sounds rang out again. The rebel soldiers who tried to escape and stood up from the battlements were once again nailed to death. Damn it! The rebel general saw a large group of dead soldiers not far away and shuddered. He then roared angrily. Damn it! There was no way to fight this battle. The enemy had not even attacked the city, and more than half of them were dead. How could they fight? However, he did not dare to give the order to retreat. If he gave the order, what awaited him would be Zhang Chun's butcher's knife. He would definitely die, right north of Ping City, outside the city. Zhao Yun looked at the eastern wall of Beiping City, which was covered in kerosene. He raised his right hand and shouted, "Fire arrows!" Whoosh, whoosh. 10,000 rockets instantly flew out. On the city walls of Ping City to the north. The enemy is firing rockets. Run! A scream rang out. The rebel soldiers no longer cared about the orders of the general guarding the city. One by one, they charged madly towards the horse road. They would rather be executed than burned to death. That would be too painful. Damn it! The rebel general's expression changed as he charged at Ma Dao. Poochie, poochie! The sound of arrows hitting the body rang out again. The rebel soldiers that left the battlements were like live targets, and a large number of them were shot to death in an instant. However, it wasn't over yet. This time was fire arrows. At this moment, all the surviving rebel soldiers widened their eyes and let out earth-shattering shrieks. "No, I don't want to die. Get out of the way. Get out of the way. I want to go down." Boom, boom, boom. Countless sounds of flames exploding rang out instantly. The city walls of Ping City to the north were instantly turned into a sea of fire. Save me, save me, screams of agony rang out. The rebel soldiers that didn't charge down the horse road were set ablaze in droves. The fire ignited their clothes, their hair, and then started to burn their bodies. Heat, pain, and screams continued to play out on the city walls. One after another, human-shaped torches fled on the city walls. Some fell head first and fell outside the city. Some fell into the city, right north of Ping City to the north, on the city's main street. Tut, tut, tut. The sound of horses galloping could be heard. A middle-aged general led 1,000 cavalrymen to the main street that led to the east gate. The tragedy on the eastern city wall instantly entered his eyes. How was that possible? How did they use fire to attack? The middle-aged general shouted in disbelief. In his opinion, no matter how powerful the enemy was, they couldn't possibly set the city walls on fire. However, that was the truth. Not only were the city walls set ablaze, but they were also burning vigorously. "General, what should we do?" A man dressed as a deputy general asked in shock. "Leave the city. I want to meet that damned enemy general." The middle-aged general shouted with an ashen face. "General, the city walls have already fallen. If the enemy attacks now, then..." The middle-aged general's deputy general hurriedly advised. "What are you afraid of? Even if the city walls are on fire, the enemy won't be able to attack the city. Moreover, they are all cavalrymen," the middle-aged general shouted in a deep voice. After he finished shouting, he rushed toward the city gates. Right north of Ping City, to the outskirts. Rumble. Tens of thousands of horses galloped. The earth shook, and smoke filled the sky. Tens of thousands of cavalrymen rushed toward Ping City to the north. A flag with the word Yi flapped in the wind. At the front of the cavalrymen was a young general riding on a black warhorse. He wore black armor and a red cloak. His long hair fluttered in the wind. He had a resolute face and cold eyes. Yi Chen looked at the burning eastern wall of Ping City to the right. He narrowed his eyes and shouted, "Pass down the order! The Samsara Legion will follow me to the west gate. The rest of you will split into 2 groups and head to the north and south gates. If the rebels leave the city, just shoot arrows to stop them. Ignore the enemy general." "Yes, my lord." A messenger hurriedly replied when he heard this. He then turned his horse around and went to relay Yi Chen's order. After 10 minutes, the cavalrymen split into 3 groups. 2 groups of 25,000 cavalrymen headed toward the north and south gates, respectively. The last group followed Yi Chen to the west gate, right north of Ping City to the north, outside the east gate. "Zilong, the Lord is here." Zhao Meng turned around when he heard the sound of galloping horses. He immediately saw the flag with the word Yi written on it. He then looked at Zhao Yun and said. Zhao Yun nodded and said, "The Lord is giving us a chance. Zilong, this time we have to break into the city no matter what. Otherwise, we will disappoint the Lord." Zhao Meng said after a moment of silence. "Breaking into the city depends on the opportunity and how the other side responds," Zhao Yun said. He then looked at the messenger beside him and said, "Pass down the order. Pass down the order. Fill up the moat." "Yes, General." The messenger replied loudly and ran to relay Zhao Yun's order. Right north of Ping City to the west gate. Yi Chen stopped when he arrived. He looked at the panicked rebel soldiers on the west gate and curled his lips in disdain. At this moment, Guo Jia rode to Yi Chen's side. He glanced at the west gate and said, "My lord, the rebel soldiers' morale has dropped a lot because of the Samsara cavalry." Chapter 176. 110,000 cavalrymen can intimidate them, but they are more afraid that we will continue to burn down the city walls, Yi Chen said with a smirk. "Your Highness is right. From the looks of it, there is no need to use the tactic of burning down the city." When Guojia heard this, he immediately smiled and said. Yi Chen raised his eyebrows and said, "There are hundreds of thousands of civilians in the city. If we can avoid it, we will try our best not to." Yi Chen knew what Guojia meant. Burning down the city was too cruel. After all, fire and water were merciless. If they burned down the city, many innocent civilians would die. However, Yi Chen would still use it if he couldn't take down the city after a long time. While Yi Chen was attacking Ping City, the world channel became lively again. F***CK. I know where Yi Chen is going. He is going to Ping City to attack the traitor, Zhang Chen. F***CK, did you see it? It's absolutely true. We're hunting bandits on a mountain 50 li east of Ping City in the right north. F***CK. So he's going to attack Zhang Chen. That is a historical quest. The rewards are ridiculously good. It seems that some forces have accepted the quest, but they were all destroyed by Zhang Chen. Even their territories were flattened. I know about this too. F***CK. More than 10 towns were flattened. That is not important. It is all in the past. The problem is now. I am not surprised that Yi Chen is doing Zhang Chen's quest. After all, he is the strongest. However, he wants to attack the city with cavalrymen. F***CK. This is the best joke I have heard since I entered the game. Is Yi Chen crazy? Yes, attacking the city with cavalrymen. Isn't this nonsense? Haha, don't worry about it. Yi Chen has plenty of soldiers. He is not afraid. Just ask him to attack. I wanted to join the fun and see if I could get some benefits. However, it seems that I should wait. +1, +10086, you bunch of scum. How despicable. How shameless. All right, count me in. Haha, count me in. Don't you all think too simply of Boss Yi Chen? You all know that cavalry cannot attack a city, but doesn't Boss Yi Chen know that as well? Yeah, a bunch of idiots. They've gone crazy from their fantasies. F***CK. The problem was that Yi Chen had only brought cavalry with him. How was it not cavalry attacking the city? Don't tell me that the cavalry would dismount and be used as infantry to attack the city. If that was the case, wouldn't Yichen be a fool? Do you know how difficult it is to groom a cavalry? Now that you've managed to groom one, you're actually using them as infantry to attack cities? Mother of asterisk her, I don't understand at all. Yichun had noticed it when the world channel started flooding the screen, so he casually glanced at it. When Yichun saw the players trying to take advantage of the situation, his eyes narrowed, a cold glint flashing across them. Yichun naturally knew what the players were thinking. Cavalry attacking the city was bullshit. In their opinion, Yichun's cavalry would suffer heavy losses or even be wiped out. When that happened, they would be able to pick up the equipment and war horses for free. Right north Ping City, East City Gate. A creaking sound was heard as the East City Gate, which was closed because Zhao Yun had brought his troops over, suddenly opened. Nay! War horses neighed as a middle-aged general led 1,000 guards out of the city gate and stopped 200 meters away from the city gate. When Zhao Yun saw the East City Gate open, he immediately raised his hand and shouted, "Stop filling the moat. Get on your horses and prepare for battle." "Yes, General," the messenger hurriedly replied. Then he charged towards the soldiers who were filling sacks with soil to fill up the moat. "Giddy up." The middle-aged general urged his war horse and angrily walked to the front of the formation. He shouted at Zhao Yun's troops. "General, state your name." When Zhao Yun heard this, he narrowed his eyes and shouted, "Chongshan Zhao Zilong. I am Yang Sun Bu heir. Do you dare to fight me?" The middle-aged general suddenly opened his eyes and shouted, "Why wouldn't I dare?" Zhao Yun snorted coldly and urged his horse forward. Zhao Ming opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but in the end, he didn't say anything. Originally, he wanted to go up and fight. However, when he thought of Yichen's order to take Ping City, he gave up the idea of going up and fighting. His strength wasn't as high as Zhao Yungao's, and he knew this very well. He didn't want to ruin Yi Chen's plan to attack the city because of his thoughts. Die. Sun Bu'er angrily opened his eyes wide. Then, he urged his war horse and rushed towards Zhao Yun with a steel spear in his hand. He didn't know Zhao Yun at all, nor had he heard of Zhao Yun's name. As far as he was concerned, Zhao Yun was just a nobody. He would be able to defeat Zhao Yun in just a few moves. Therefore, he was very confident. Go. Zhao Yun opened his eyes, and a cold light flashed through them. Then, he urged his war horse to meet Sun Bu'er. Kill! 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 Sun Bu'er's personal guards shouted in unison. In their eyes, their general would definitely be able to defeat the white-robed young general. Therefore, their shouts were filled with confidence. Kill! 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 50,000 Samsara soldiers raised their spears in unison and then loudly shouted. Their cheers were loud, clear, and uniform. Moreover, they carried an extremely strong, murderous aura towards Sun Bu'er and her personal guards. In an instant, Sun Bu'er's personal guards were affected and their voices gradually lowered. At this time, Sun Bu'er and Zhao Yun were about to come into contact. Kill! Sun Bu'er angrily opened his eyes wide and shouted. The steel spear fiercely stabbed toward Zhao Yun. Die! Zhao Yun shouted with cold eyes. The silver spear in his right hand and the dragon's bile flashed and stabbed toward Sun Bu'er. 2 war horses, 2 generals, and 2 spears crossed each other in an instant. Clatter, clatter, clatter. The war horse slowed down and then stopped. Plop came a sound. Sun Bu'er fell off the war horse head first. At this moment, her heart was also crazily spurting out blood. The cheers of Sun Bu'er's personal guards suddenly stopped. Kill! 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 Seeing this, the 50,000 Samsara soldiers all shouted excitedly. Their morale instantly rose by a notch. Zhao Yun's eyes flashed. He raised the dragon's bile spear in his hand and shouted, "Charge!" Whoosh! A silver light suddenly burst out from the dragon's bile spear and enveloped the 50,000 cavalry. In the next second, the 50,000 cavalry instantly charged. Their speed increased again and again. In the blink of an eye, they reached their maximum speed. However, their speed didn't stop there. Instead, It increased again and soon reached twice their original speed. This was one of the characteristics of Zhao Yun as a superclass historical general. Amazing speed. When the whole army charges, instantly activate and increase speed by 100%. Zhao Yun took the lead and charged towards Sun Bu Air's personal guards who were scared stiff. Sun Bu Air's personal guards originally thought that Sun Bu Air could kill Zhao Yun in a few moves. But in the end, Sun Bu Air was killed in one move. After seeing the charging speed of Zhao Yun's 50,000 cavalry, Sun Bu Air's deputy general's pupils suddenly shrank. He hurriedly turned his horse around and shouted, "Quick, return to the city." At this moment, he finally knew what kind of person Zhao Yun was. Damn, this was not a nameless general who couldn't even withstand a single blow. This was a ferocious dragon crossing the river, the ferocious kind. Chapter 177. Zhang Chun's residence in Ping City to the north. Report, General, the eastern city wall has been attacked by the enemy with ballistae and kerosene. They have been ignited, and the eastern city wall has become a sea of fire. The messenger shouted with a pale face. What? Zhang Chun jumped to his feet when he heard that and exclaimed in shock. Not good. General Sun has already left the city to fight the enemy. If we lose, the eastern city gate will be in danger. The military advisor with a goatee opened his eyes and shouted, "Quick, pass down the order. Close the city gate." Zhang Chun's face changed, and he quickly shouted, "My lord, just in case, I will make some arrangements." The military advisor bowed and said, "Thank you, military advisor." Zhang Chun was overjoyed when he heard this. The military advisor nodded and walked to the sand table in the hall. He looked at the sand table and pointed his feather fan at the eastern city gate. Heaven and earth change. In the next second, the ground outside the eastern city gate began to shake. Then a 1,000-meter-long and 10-meter-wide wall rose rapidly. Sun Bu Air's deputy general, who had just turned his horse around and hadn't gone far, was instantly blocked by the earth wall. When the deputy general saw this, his face changed and he shouted angrily, "Military advisor, you will die a horrible death." At this moment, Zhao Yun had just caught up with Sun Bu Air's 1,000 guards. When he saw the terrain change in front of him, he frowned. The sudden appearance of the wall disrupted Zhao Yun's original plan. This made Zhao Yun very unhappy, but there was nothing he could do. This was an ability that belonged to the military advisors of the historical civil officials. Even Zhao Yun was unable to break through it. "Kill!" Zhao Yun shouted angrily and waved the silver spear of the gallbladder of the dragon toward the 1,000 soldiers of the rebel army who were also blocked outside. Ping City to the north, outside the western city gate. Guojia suddenly frowned and looked up at the sky. There were no clouds for thousands of miles, but suddenly dark clouds covered the sky. "Feng Xiao, what's the matter?" When Yi Chun saw Guojia frowning, he couldn't help but ask, "My lord, Zhang Chun's military advisor has made his move." Upon hearing Yi Chun's question, Guojia immediately explained, "I didn't expect Zhang Chun to have such a capable subordinate." Yi Chun was slightly taken aback. He immediately understood what Guojia meant and said with a frown, "Most of the historical civil officials who were qualified to be military advisors had strange and unpredictable abilities. Changing the heavens and changing the earth, stealing the sky and swapping the sun, crossing the rivers, and all sorts of abilities. Among them, the super first-rate historical civil officials were the most powerful. It was precisely because of this that Yi Chun placed so much importance on top-class historical civil officials. Although Guojia had never made a move ever since he joined Yi Chun knew that Guojia's ability was definitely at the top of the novice officials of the three kingdoms. "My lord, it must be because General Zilong is about to break into the city. That's why the enemy's military advisor is here. I will help General Zilong," Guojia said with a smile. After Guojia finished speaking, he pointed in the air. The floor plan of Ping City in the north instantly appeared in the air. Looking at the mud wall that suddenly appeared outside the east gate, Guojia curled his lips and said, It's just a small trick. How dare you show it off? In the next second, Guijiao waved his right hand. Kaboom! A loud sound suddenly rang out. The sky that was originally covered by dark clouds instantly returned to normal. Yichen raised his eyebrows when he saw this. Guijia had said that he wouldn't make a move. Now that he made a move, it was earth-shattering Ping City in the north, Zhang Chun's residence. The high-spirited military advisor's face instantly turned red. Then he spat out a mouthful of blood. Military advisor. Zhang Chun was shocked when he saw this. Not good. Among the enemy, there's an expert. The military advisor shouted with a pale face. What? Zhang Chun was shocked when he heard this. At this moment, a drawn-out voice rang out. Report. A rebel soldier ran over in a panic. When he saw Zhang Chun, he knelt down on one knee and shouted, General! Outside the city, there are another 60,000 cavalrymen outside the city. They have already surrounded Ping City in the north. What? Another 60,000 cavalrymen? Zhang Chun's expression suddenly became extremely unsightly, and he cried out in shock. Ping City in the north, Ping City in the north. Zhao Yun waved his silver spear and the gallbladder of the dragon, killing everything in his way. The 50,000 cavalrymen's charge behind him was about to be interrupted. At this moment, the thick mud wall that had just appeared suddenly collapsed and disappeared into thin air. The blocked east gate of Ping City in the north appeared in front of Zhao Yun again. Seeing this, Zhao Yun's eyes widened. He raised his silver spear and the gallbladder of the dragon and shouted, Charge! Silver light flashed, and the 50,000 cavalrymen, who had just slowed down, sped up again. Kill! 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 The 50,000 cavalrymen shouted in unison. Their murderous aura filled the air as they charged toward the east gate of Ping City in the north. Creak! A muffled sound rang out. The east gate was slowly closing. As the mud wall collapsed, the closing of the gate stopped for a moment. Then it sped up again. Seeing this, Zhao Yun was furious. He shouted, Those who block me die. In the next second, Zhao Yun rushed toward the east gate with his horse. Wherever he passed, Sun Bu'er's personal guards who didn't have time to dodge were thrown off their horses. They fell to the ground and died. 100 meters was covered in the blink of an eye. Harumph! The war horse jumped up. Zhao Yun's body wasn't affected at all. Not only that, Zhao Yun stabbed out with his silver spear and the gallbladder of the dragon. In the next second, thousands of spear shadows appeared and pierced countless holes in the rebel soldiers who were closing the gate. Zhao Yun didn't stop. He squeezed his horse's belly and rushed into the east gate that was about to close. Puff, puff, puff. After a series of noises, the closing of the east gate stopped. At this time, Zhao Yun, who had rushed into the eastern city gate, returned to the city gate. Without even looking, he directly jumped up and kicked the eastern city gate. After using the force to bounce up, he kicked the other city gate. Pong pong. Two loud sounds rang out. The east city gate, which originally required at least 6 people to close, was instantly kicked wide open by Zhao Yun. At this moment, Zhao Yun got back on his horse. Kill! Zhao Yun pointed the silver spear and the gallbladder of the dragon in his right hand forward and shouted, Kill! 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 The 50,000 cavalrymen shouted excitedly. They didn't expect their new general, Zhao Yun, to be so brave. He had killed a general in front of the army and killed him in an instant. Now he had charged into the city gates alone and even kicked open the city gates that were about to close. Such a brave general was their general. How could they not be excited? What made them even more excited was that the merit was right in front of them. Rumble! 10,000 horses galloped, and the ground shook. Zhao Yun led the 50,000 cavalrymen and charged into the east gate of the east gate. Chapter 178. Zhang Chun's residence in Ping City. Report. General, the east gate has been breached. The enemy has entered the city. The messenger shouted in fear. How could he have imagined that in less than 2 hours, the city gates of the huge Ping City in the north of the city would be broken down and invaded. The rebel army generals in the hall looked at each other in disbelief. This was too King ridiculous. It hadn't even been an hour, and Ping City to the north had already been breached. Zhang Chun's face turned green when he heard this. Damn it! Listen to my orders. All troops attack. We must force the enemy out of the city. The rebel army generals bowed in unison. Yes, General. Yes, General. After saying that, the group of generals hurriedly left the hall, preparing to face Zhao Yun, who had broken into the city. They did not dare to delay any longer. If they did not force the enemy out, they would all be finished. Wait! The rebel army's military advisor suddenly called out to the rebel army's generals. What do you mean, advisor? Zhang Chun shouted. General, the enemy's attack is ferocious. Please retreat first. The advisor clutched his chest and said with a pale face. The rebel army generals frowned when they heard this. Damn it, they had not even attacked, and he was already talking about retreating. What the hell was this? Zhang Chun was silent for a moment, then gritted his teeth. Retreat? Where can I retreat to? The east gate has been breached, and there are cavalry on all three sides. Where can I retreat to? General, leave from the north gate. Once you leave the city, you can go all the way north. As long as you reach Wuhuan, you will be safe. The advisor quickly said, I'm giving up my base just like that. I can't accept this. I can't accept this. Zhang Chun clenched his fists and roared with a ferocious expression. The rebel army generals were stunned when they heard this. They did not expect Zhang Chun to give up on Ping City so easily. What they did not know was that Zhang Chun had lost his confidence when he heard that the east gate had been attacked by ballistae and turned into a sea of fire. He was a general and naturally wasn't stupid. How could he not see that this was the result of a large number of ballistae? He also knew that the ballistae could shoot the kerosene into the city and set it on fire. No one would be able to escape. Although this result did not appear, it had become a sharp sword hanging over his head that could fall at any time and take his life. He knew that he was in an extremely dangerous situation, but he couldn't say it out loud. Once he did, it would be more like a mutiny. Therefore, he had been putting on an act. General, please make a decision as soon as possible. The enemy is not ordinary and is not an ordinary Great Han army. Only by retreating to Wuhuan will we have a chance to rise again, the rebel army advisor said. Bullshit. We haven't even gone to war yet. Why are we giving up so easily? One of the rebel generals couldn't bear to listen any longer. He glared fiercely at the military advisor and shouted angrily. General Sun went out of the city for the Battle of Generals. What is the result? He had been beheaded. How can you compare to General Sun? The rebel army's military advisor roared with an ashen face. As soon as he finished speaking, the rebel generals all fell silent. Compared to Sun Bu'er, who had been instantly killed by Zhao Yun, they were really no different. The rebel military advisor glanced at the rebel generals and roared, "Let's go." Moreover, the enemy soldiers are fully equipped with silver equipment. 80% of our soldiers are equipped with black iron equipment. Only the personal guards are equipped with bronze equipment. Only some centurions have 1 or 2 pieces of silver equipment. How can we fight them? Also, they have ballistae. Who dares to take the ballistae head-on? After the military advisor finished speaking, he didn't even look at the stunned rebel generals. He directly looked at Zhang Chun and bowed. General, please make a decision quickly. How many cavalry are there at the north gate? Zhang Chun looked at the messenger and asked, General, there are around 30,000 enemy cavalry outside the north gate. The messenger hastily replied, 30,000. Zhang Chun's face darkened when he heard this number. In the entire Ping City, there were less than 20,000 cavalry. If they wanted to break through the defensive line, they could only do it in one attack. Otherwise, they would definitely be smashed to pieces by the charge of the enemy cavalry. The cavalry from the other 2 gates would also follow. At that time, it would be too late for Zhang Chun to cry. How many are there at the west gate and south gate? Zhang Chun asked with an ugly expression. General, there are around 10,000 enemy cavalry at the west gate. The south gate is the same as the north gate, around 30,000, the messenger replied. Why are they so brazen? Zhang Chun was stunned when he heard this. He then looked at the military advisor and asked, "Is there a commander's flag at the west gate?" The military advisor's expression changed when he heard this. He then looked at the messenger and asked, "Military advisor, there's a commander's flag at the west gate. It's General Pingbei's flag. The commander's surname is Yi," the messenger replied. "As expected, the enemy commander is at the west gate. They must have predicted that we would give up on Ping City and force us to leave through there. Where do they get their confidence from? How dare they go up against 200,000 troops at the right gate with just 10,000 cavalry? Are they relying on the military advisor?" The military advisor said with a dark expression, "Since the enemy commander is at the west gate with only 10,000 cavalry, then let's show him what it means to be arrogant and die." Zhang Chun roared with an ominous glint in his eyes. "General," the military advisor hurriedly called out when he heard this. "Military advisor, there's no need to say anything else." Zhang Chun looked at the generals and shouted, "All troops attack. Kill the enemy commander." "Yes, General," the rebel generals replied in unison. Then, they hurriedly left to gather the troops. "Kill! Kill! Kill!" The battle cries had never stopped since Zhao Yun led the 50,000 cavalry into Ping City. Miserable howls and screams came out of the mouths of the rebel soldiers one after another. Zhang Chun and his generals weren't here, but there were other generals organizing resistance. However, these rebel soldiers couldn't withstand the might of the Samsara soldiers. The rebel soldiers were forced to retreat. Ping City, Ping City, Ping City, Ping City, Ping City, Ping City. Report. A messenger from Samsara City rode over and stopped near Yichun. He dismounted from his horse and knelt on one knee. "My lord, the east gate of Ping City has been breached." Yichun's eyes widened when he heard this. Then he laughed. "With the help of Feng Xiao Zilong, Chu Chu and Zhang Chun are nothing. Congratulations, my lord. Today is the day to conquer Ping City." Guojia smiled and bowed. "Feng Xiao, you and Zilong deserve the most credit for this battle." Yichun said happily, "My lord, 10 bottles of Baiwa wine is enough." Guojia smiled and said seriously, "Don't even think about it. 3 bottles means 3 bottles. Not even 1 cup more." Yichun's face froze. Then he shouted, "My lord, you deserve the most credit. I deserve the most credit." Guojia complained. When Yichun heard this, he nodded in agreement. Just as Guojia's eyes were shining, Yichun said, 10 bottles is fine. You'll give it to me over 4 days." Sigh. Guojia heaved a long sigh. His face was full of sorrow. Yichun shook his head helplessly. Then he shouted, "Pass down my order. Get ready. We must kill Zhang Chun." Chapter 179. "Yes, my lord. My lord," the messenger replied loudly. Then he rode towards the Samsara Legion, shouting as he ran, "My lord's orders. Get ready. You must kill Zhang Chun." Swoosh! The Samsara Legion raised their spears, and a murderous aura filled the air. Ping City to the north. "Kill! Kill! Kill!" The deafening battle cries resounded throughout the eastern half of the city. Zhao Yun led 50,000 cavalrymen and broke through the rebel army's defensive line as they charged towards the governor's residence. At this moment, the rebel army in Ping City to the north began to mobilize on a large scale. The cavalrymen took the lead, and the infantry followed behind as they charged towards the western part of the city. The leader was the instigator of the Yuzhou Rebellion, Zhang Chun. Ping City to the north. Eastern District. Zilong, are the rebel army terrified of the slaughter? Why are they running away? Zhao Meng asked curiously after cutting off the head of a rebel centurion. At this moment, the retreating rebel army actually gave up on resisting and turned around to flee. Zhao Yun had just noticed this problem and frowned when he heard Zhao Meng's question. Under normal circumstances, the rebel General Zhang Chun would have sent a large force to stop us. Zhao Yun's face darkened as he spoke. Zhang Chun is running away. Are you sure? Zhang Chun is so cowardly that he would run away? Zhao Meng asked in shock. He's afraid of the ballistae to be able to set fire to one side of the city wall in such a short time. He's not stupid. He must have guessed the number of ballistae. Zhao Yun paused and looked at Zhao Meng. How did my lord split his forces? There should be 25,000 men in the north and south. My lord led the Samsara Legion to the western part of the city, Zhao Meng replied after some thought. My lord is luring Zhang Chun to the western gate. Zhao Yun paused and shouted, "Pass down the order. Increase the speed of the army. Target the western gate." "Yes, General." The messenger hurriedly replied and turned his horse around to relay Zhao Yun's order. Ping City to the north. West Gate. A creaking sound was heard, and the West City Gate opened. Yichun looked at the open gate and curled his lips in disdain. He waved his right hand, and the Godslayer appeared. Rumble. The rebel army cavalrymen charged out of the western gate in batches and stopped in front of the Samsara Legion. When the 20,000 cavalrymen were assembled, a large number of soldiers began to charge out the western gate. At this time, a general wearing armor and holding a three-pointed double-edged sword walked to the front of the formation. Behind him were 6 generals. The moment Yichun saw them, his eyes narrowed. Zhang Chun, nay? After 10 minutes, Zhang Chun looked at the general behind him and shouted, "Who is going to kill the enemy with me?" This way, the morale of Yichen's side would definitely plummet. How would they be able to defend against the army of Ping City? This general is willing to go. A general rode his horse forward and shouted. This general is willing to go. Another general shouted. The two of you will go together. Zhang Chun shouted without hesitation. When the 2 generals heard this, they were both stunned. Then they bowed and replied, "Yes, General." After saying that, the 2 of them rode towards the center of the battlefield. When they arrived at their destination, one of them shouted at Yichun, "Ignorant brat, do you dare to fight me? If you don't dare, then go home and drink milk." Another person laughed loudly. Their provocation was very crude and fake, but it incited the anger of the Samsara Corps. "Kill! Kill! Kill!" The soldiers of the Samsara Legion raised their spears and shouted angrily. In an instant, an extremely violent, murderous aura appeared, then condensed together and rushed toward the 2 generals under Zhang Chun's command. Hualulu. The 2 generals of the rebel army were shocked. They had never encountered an army with such a terrifying, murderous aura. Today, they saw it for themselves. The war horses beneath them all became restless and uneasy at the same time. Yichun smiled coldly, then clamped his legs on his war horse and rode towards the center of the battlefield. After one of the generals calmed his war horse, he looked at Yichun and shouted, "General, state your name." "General Pingbei of the Great Han Empire, Yichun." Yichun narrowed his eyes and shouted, "I am." One of them shouted. However, before he could finish, he was interrupted by Yichun. "You're just trash. There's no need to state your name. You're asking for it. Kill." The 2 generals of the rebel army were furious. Then, they urged their war horses to charge towards Yichun. "Kill." Yichun's eyes abruptly widened as he roared. In the next second, his war horse galloped forward and charged towards the 2 generals of the rebel army. "Little brat, die. Today, I'll let you know that you can't be too arrogant." The 2 generals of the rebel army shouted at the same time as they were about to collide. Then, they waved their weapons and attacked Yichun. Yichun curled his lips in disdain and waved the Godslayer in his right hand. A black light flashed past as fast as lightning. Bang, bang. The 2 generals of the rebel army were sent flying the moment their weapons came into contact with the Godslayer. BZZT, BZZT. 2 more sounds were heard. 2 round heads were sent flying in an instant. Yichun killed 2 Emperor-level generals in an instant. Their war horses were still charging forward, carrying 2 headless corpses that were still spurting blood. Victory! 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 The soldiers of the Samsara Legion raised their guns excitedly and shouted in unison. On Zhang Chun's side, from top to bottom, everyone was stunned. This Why is the commander of the enemy so fierce? How old is he? 20 years old? One of the generals of the rebel army said in shock. Both of them are emperor-level generals. How strong is the commander of the enemy? Damn it. What should we do? How is this possible? How is this possible? Zhang Chun's eyes widened, and he said impossible twice. His face was full of shock. His subordinates were all emperor-level generals. Although they weren't outstanding, they weren't cabbages that could be found everywhere. He wanted to provoke Yi Chun and have Yi Chun fight 1 against 2, then kill Yi Chun. But in the end, Yi Chun killed 2 of his emperor-level generals in an instant. Zhang Chun didn't expect this result. He wasn't the only one who didn't expect this. The entire rebel army of the right north also didn't expect this result. At this moment, Yi Chun raised the Godslayer in his hand and shouted, "Charge! Cut off Zhang Chun's head! Kill! Kill! Kill!" The soldiers of the Samsara Legion shouted in unison. An extremely violent, murderous aura instantly surged. "Bastard! Kill him! Whoever kills this ignorant brat will be rewarded with 1,000,000 gold coins and a promotion of 3 ranks." Zhang Chun was furious when he heard this. He raised his 3-pointed, double-edged sword and roared angrily. Chapter 180. Rumble. 10,000 horses galloped and the earth shook. The Samsara Legion led the charge. The Legion technique, fire-like invasion, was instantly activated. A powerful and invincible aura appeared above the Samsara Legion and charged toward the rebel army. "Kill!" Yi Chun roared and held the god-killing spear in his right hand. Then he urged his warhorse to charge toward Zhang Chun, who was in the rebel army's camp. "Kill! Kill!" Zhang Chun's generals shouted in unison and led their cavalry to meet the Samsara Legion. At this moment, they were afraid. Even with Zhang Chun's generous reward, they could not help but feel afraid. Because of Yi Chen's strength, Yi Chen's arrogance, and also because of the Samsara Legion's aura. They had never seen such a powerful general. Killing 2 emperor-level generals in one blow was too exaggerated. They had also never seen a cavalry legion with such a strong aura and murderous aura. But they had to fight, because if they did not fight, there would only be one outcome: death. Rumble. On Zhang Chun's side, 20,000 cavalrymen charged with their generals. However, their aura was obviously very weak. As they charged, they became weaker and weaker. The 20,000 cavalrymen of the rebel army were completely suppressed by the 10,000 Samsara Legion. The rebel army's morale, which had just been boosted by Zhang Chun's generous reward, fell again. When the rebel army strategist beside Zhang Chun saw this, his expression changed, and he waved the fan in his right hand without hesitation. Sinkhole. Rumble. 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 Countless 1-meter deep pits suddenly appeared in front of the Samsara Legion. If a horse accidentally stepped into one, there would only be one result. It would be a complete mess. At the rear of the Samsara Legion, Guijia, who was riding on his horse and did not participate in the charge, narrowed his eyes and pointed with his right hand. A map of the battlefield instantly appeared, and he waved his right hand. Shifting stars. Buzz. A formless fluctuation suddenly appeared. In the next second, countless 1-meter deep pits suddenly appeared in the path of Zhang Chun's cavalry. Harumph! Swathes of rebel soldiers were tripped by the horse traps. Their war horses fell to the ground, and the rebel soldiers were sent flying. At this moment, the cavalry was charging forward. There was only one outcome for them to fall. They were trampled into meat paste by the iron hooves of the war horses. The military advisor beside Zhang Chun spat out a mouthful of blood and started coughing violently. Cough, 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 cough. Zhang Chun's face turned green when he saw more and more of his men tripping and being trampled to death by the war horses. He hurriedly shouted at the military advisor. "Military advisor, quick! General, your humble servant. Your humble servant's skills are inferior," the rebel military advisor said with a pale face. His ability was not strong to begin with, and his strategist skill had been broken twice in a row. Even if he wanted to use it again, he could not. When Zhang Chun heard this, his face turned green and white. It was an ugly sight. At this moment, he regretted it. He regretted that he didn't immediately charge forward and kill Yi Chun in front of the formation. This was great. They had suffered heavy losses in just one exchange. Behind the Samsara Legion, Guo Jia pointed at the air with his right hand. Flying sand and stones. In an instant, the wind howled and swept up the sand and stones in the direction of the rebel soldiers. The charging rebel soldiers were already crying for their mothers and fathers from the horse traps. Now that the wind was blowing so hard that they could not even open their eyes, their hearts sank. Damn it, how are we going to fight like this? The rebel soldiers wanted to cry. On the other hand, the Samsara Legion was advancing smoothly. The speed of their charge increased again and again. Yi Chun naturally saw the changes in the terrain and the weather. He was delighted. Damn it, if I don't have a military advisor, I will die of frustration if I meet an opponent with a military advisor. At this thought, Yi Chun could not help but smile. Then, he opened his eyes and swung the Godslayer in his right hand without hesitation. Bang! The weapon of the rebel general who was running the fastest was instantly sent flying. Chi-la sound was heard. The Godslayer's attack trajectory did not change at all. In an instant, the rebel general's head was cut off. Kill! 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 When the Samsara Legion saw Yi Chun kill another rebel general with a single blow, they shouted excitedly. Guo Jia had been watching the changes on the battlefield. When he saw Yi Chun kill another rebel general with a single blow, he could not help but smile. The Lord's bravery is unparalleled in the world. After Guo Jia finished speaking, he slapped the air with his right hand. Buzz! A sound was heard. The horse traps were all filled up. This was because the Samsara Legion was about to come into contact with the rebel soldiers. If they did not settle this quickly, the Samsara Legion would be in trouble. At this moment, the three rebel generals who had already arrived in front of Yi Chun changed their expressions drastically. This was because Yi Chun had killed another emperor-level general with a single blow. They looked at each other and waved their weapons at Yi Chun in unison. At this moment, they did not care whether they were shameless or not. Yi Chun was too ferocious. If they did not attack together, they would definitely be finished. But even if they attacked together, they did not feel confident. The three generals who had been killed by Yi Chun were all emperor-level generals. The three of them who were still alive were not any better. They were all emperor-level generals. Die! Yi Chun smiled coldly and stabbed out with the Godslayer in his right hand. It was a simple, crude, and unadorned stab. The three rebel generals could not help but be stunned when they saw it. In the next second, their expressions changed at the same time. This was because they sensed danger. It was clearly a simple stab, but it made them feel like death was coming. Swoosh! The Godslayer split into three midway, and then turned into a sky full of spear shadows, completely enveloping the three of them. Oh no! One of them shouted in shock. At this moment, a series of puff, puff, puff sounds suddenly rang out. The three rebel generals were pierced into sieves in an instant. At the rebel camp, Zhang Chun tried his best to open his eyes and look forward. When he saw that his remaining generals had all been killed by Yi Chun, he suddenly shuddered. Where did this general pacifying North, Yi Chun, come from? Why is he so cruel? Zhang Chun swallowed his saliva with a gulp and then shouted in shock. General, the enemy's commander is too strong. None of us can fight against him. The enemy's military advisor is also not an ordinary person. Let's go directly to Wu Huan, the military advisor said helplessly. When Zhang Chun heard this, he immediately came back to his senses and roared with a pale face. How can we run now? The cavalry has already charged. It's too late to ask them to stop. That damned General Pingbei's cavalry is already here. General, we have to run even if we don't want to. If we don't run now, we will all die here, the military advisor said with a sad face. Then you will die here first. Zhang Chun roared with a ferocious expression when he heard this. After roaring, Zhang Chun swung the three-pointed, double-edged sword in his right hand, and the head of the rebel general was instantly cut off. Damned bastard, if it weren't for you, I wouldn't have lost so many of my cavalry. Zhang Chun had gone crazy at this moment. He blamed all the failure on the rebel general. Chapter 181. Rumble. 10,000 horses galloped, and the earth trembled. Charge, 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 charge forward. After Yi Chun killed the rebel commander, he galloped his horse and charged into the ranks of the rebel cavalry. The Godslayer flew up and down and tore open a path in an instant. Wherever Yi Chun went, severed limbs and heads would fly. Even the better ones would be pierced through, leaving a huge hole in their bodies. No one could stop Yi Chun, not even the slightest bit of Yi Chun. The Samsara Legion came into contact with the rebel cavalry. They stabbed their steel and spears mercilessly and did not stop. After the time it took to drink a cup of tea, the rebel cavalry was torn to shreds. However, no one from the Samsara Legion was shot down. Ferocious, tyrannical, and unreasonable. These were the feelings that the Samsara Legion gave to the rebel army. Yi Chun, who was at the forefront, was even more domineering. He charged into the enemy formation alone and killed them until they cried for their parents. Wherever he passed, blood and broken limbs flew everywhere. However, no one who was attacked by Yi Chun was left with a complete corpse. Groups and groups of people were mercilessly killed by Yi Chun. Fear, terror, and fear rose in the hearts of the rebel army. And there were still 180,000 of them. However, they were still afraid. Because they were infantrymen, they often met a tragic end when facing cavalry on the plains. Of course, they were even more afraid of encountering Yi Chun, a peerless demon. Just thinking about that kind of outcome made them shudder. Zhang Chun looked at his cavalry that was about to be wiped out in 10 minutes and felt a surge of anger. Then, he roared with a ferocious expression. Kill them. The enemy only has 10,000 men. Kill the enemy commander. Reward them with 1 million purple coins. Promotion to 8 levels. When the reward was high, brave men would be attracted. This saying was a lie. The generals of the rebel army were all killed, and the cavalry of the rebel army was completely decimated by the Samsara Legion. The 180,000 infantrymen who had yet to enter the battlefield were already terrified. They did not have the courage to attack the Samsara Legion or even attack Yi Chun, who was charging in alone. Rumble. The sound of 10,000 horses galloping suddenly came from the right side of Beiping City. The sound was getting louder and closer. Cavalry. It's cavalry. The enemy's cavalry has caught up. An extremely sharp scream came from the mouth of a soldier. In the next second, the 180,000 soldiers were in an uproar. What should we do? What should we do? We've been blocked. I don't want to die. That General Ping Bei is too terrifying. That white-robed young general who came later is equally terrifying. Don't forget that you're all traitors, and there's only one outcome for surrendering: death. Kill them. Zhang Chun roared angrily when he saw that the infantrymen behind him were not moving. He activated his innate qi, and his voice soon spread throughout the battlefield. As soon as Zhang Chun finished his words, the 180,000 infantrymen's expressions changed drastically. Yes, they were rebels, and there was only one outcome for them if they were captured: death. After a few breaths, the rebel army roared ferociously, "Kill!" In the next second, the 180,000 soldiers charged towards Yi Chun and the Samsara Legion. Since there was no way out for surrendering, death was inevitable. Fight out. This was what all the rebel soldiers thought. At this moment, a loud roar suddenly rang out. Those who surrender will be spared, and only Zhang Chun will be executed. It was Yi Chun who activated his innate qi and shouted a sentence that spread throughout the battlefield. As soon as Yi Chun finished speaking, the 180,000 rebel soldiers, who had just decided to fight to the death, were all stunned. Then, without thinking, they threw their weapons to the ground and knelt down with their hands raised high. Don't listen to him. He's lying to you. Think about it. You're all rebels, traitors. Once a traitor, you'll always be traitors. That fatuous ruler will never forgive you. You'll all be executed. Zhang Chun screamed crazily when he saw this. I'm the great Han Empire's general who pacifies the North. Yi Chun. I'm a man of my word. If you believe me, surrender. If you don't die. Yi Chun's roar rang out. The 180,000 rebel soldiers looked at each other, then continued to squat without moving. If they didn't move, they would still have a chance to live. If they moved, they would definitely die. Zhang Chun looked at the 180,000 soldiers who were determined to surrender and was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood. In the next second, Zhang Chun looked at Yi Chun with bloodshot eyes and roared, "Little brat, give me your life." After he shouted, he urged his warhorse to charge at Yi Chun. He wanted to kill Yi Chun. He had to kill Yi Chun. Only by killing Yi Chun could he vent the anger in his heart. Otherwise, even if he died, he wouldn't be able to rest in peace. "Old man Zhang Chun, let me borrow your head." Yi Chun smiled coldly and urged his warhorse to charge at Zhang Chun. After a few breaths, Yi Chun and Zhang Chun met. "Die!" Zhang Chun shouted angrily. The three-pointed, double-edged sword stabbed at Yi Chun. "Kill!" Yi Chun shouted. The Godslayer stabbed out in a simple and crude manner. Clang! A loud sound rang out. The Godslayer and the three-pointed, double-edged sword collided. Zhang Chun's crazed face suddenly froze. Woo! A sound rang out. The three-pointed, double-edged sword flew back. Poochie! A sound rang out. The hilt of the three-pointed, double-edged sword pierced Zhang Chun's shoulder. "I'm an Emperor-level general. An Emperor-level general." Why? Why? Zhang Chun looked down at the three-pointed, double-edged sword that pierced his shoulder and roared in disbelief. He had thought of many possibilities, but he had never thought that Yi Chun's attack would actually be able to send his weapon flying. That was not all. Furthermore, the hilt of his weapon had forcibly pierced through the armor on his body and pierced through his shoulder. He had never met a general with such powerful strength, and now he had met one. However, he found it hard to accept this fact. "There are many things you don't know. Old man Zhang Chun, I'll take your head." Yi Chun smiled coldly and waved the Godslayer in his right hand. Swish! A sound rang out. Zhang Chun's head instantly flew into the air, and then a spray of blood. "Long live the Lord! Long live the Lord! Long live the Lord!" The Samsara Legion stopped in unison, then raised the spears in their hands and shouted in unison. At that moment, they were very excited. That was because their lord, Yi Chun, was invincible. This was because their lord, Yi Chun, had led them to another great victory. Yi Chun smiled, then raised his hand and made a grabbing motion. The three items that Zhang Chun had dropped after his death instantly flew to Yi Chun. Yi Chun casually placed them in his storage space, then looked at the messenger and ordered, "Clean up the battlefield. Collect the weapons of the prisoners and put Zhang Chun's head into a wooden box." "Yes, Lord. My Lord." The messenger replied loudly, then ran off to pass on Yi Chun's order. At this moment, the system notification suddenly rang out. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chun for killing the second-rate historical General Zhang Chun. Reward: 8 million merit points. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chun for killing the ordinary historical General X6. Reward: 6 million merit points. Ding! Congratulations to player Yi Chun for being the first to kill an Emperor-level general. Special reward: 1 lucky draw. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.